Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 31st edition of TWitWoW monthly Q&As. I cannot believe we've gotten through 30 of these already, and we're getting into our 31st. That's just crazy to me. But we do have 51 questions for today, so that's pretty interesting. We've got 51 questions today. And John, how you feeling about these, brother?
Brother, Q&A is always a fun experience. You guys always think outside the box and are so creative. I love that about you guys. And it's just another Q&A with, again, over 50 questions. So you said 51 exactly, right, Ashton?
51, yeah. Well, we were at 43 coming into today. And then just today, we picked up 3 questions from one person and 5 questions from someone else. So today we've gotten 8.
So there you
43
go.
43 plus 8 is 51. So yeah.
So yeah, I'm ready for this. Let's dive into it. Take a deep seat, guys. That's how these Q&As always are. Let's get into this, Ashton.
All right, first set of questions from Hypothesis. First up, do you think the White Rabbit might actually be a god and tricked Paul London into thinking he's on the tribe's side?
In the Lucha Underground universe, anything is possible, so I wouldn't put that off the table. What do you think, Ashton?
Well, believe it or not, this isn't even the first it's the first, obviously, because it's the first question of the entire thing, but it's not the only question in this month's Q&A that assumes that the White Rabbit is going to end up siding with the gods. So I would not be overly surprised if that was the case by any means whatsoever. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So if you're asking if I think it'll happen, I don't know. Maybe. Really, it's your guess is as good as mine, brother.
All right. Well, with that said, I guess we can go on to our next question.
What makes you lose more faith in humanity? Flat earthers or people who want Natalia in the 2019 Hall of Fame?
Flat earthers, because fandoms are subjective and subjectivity is not worse than willful ignorance, of which flat earthers are a major part of that phenomena currently.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I might not like Natalia, but the WWE Hall of Fame is literally fucking meaningless, and I couldn't give two shits about who goes in. And B, flat earthers are denying objective fact and using an excuse of the science community is lying to us to try and act like they're right.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it any better myself.
Third question for any time. That's the thing. Anytime, like, how do I put this? Anytime a conspiracy theory is blatantly anti-science, those are the ones that I'm like, what kind of nut job does it take to believe in this shit? Like, whether it's that or like anti-vaxxing, like those are the two big ones for me. And I don't know if you heard this, John, but apparently we're getting some serious measles outbreaks due to anti-vaxxing parents.
Oh, heard of it, brother. I've been seeing that everywhere the last couple months. I even saw a mother recently on a board being like, oh, my child has measles. How do I protect them? I don't know. Maybe get them fucking vaccinated, you dumb vapid bitch.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. But anyway, that's all. Yeah.
But here's the thing, though, you guys. I'm glad I didn't get them vaccinated because now they don't have autism.
Oh I can't stand that ableist fucking shit, dude. Get that shit out of my fucking face.
I know. All right. Third and final question from Hypothesis, though. If wrestling promotions were anime, which one would have the best opening?
I think Lucha Underground because of its overall aesthetic and mythological elements. However, WWE being the one piece of wrestling, given how long it has been around and how many episodes it's produced, would probably be in second just from a pure probability standpoint. So there you go.
See, and I'm guessing, like, who has better access to the ability to create amazing anime theme songs? Who has more access to that than New Japan? Come on now.
That is true. I mean, you want to go right to the heart of it. So, yeah, it makes sense to me.
All right. Next up, we've got 3 questions from Races Fan Rocks 4. First up, in wrestling, football, or hockey, who has the best beard?
Wrestlers have the best beards, hands down to me. I mean, Hanson just alone, Ciampa Daddy. I mean, Ciampa Daddy by himself shames every other beard in existence. So wrestlers have the best beards, hands down.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what he meant by the question, or if he was saying like, look at everybody in wrestling, football, and hockey, and pick out which one person has the best beard.
Oh, it would still be Tommaso Ciampa.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Like, if that's the way we're supposed to interpret the question, I would definitely agree. And really, I would agree with you on both accounts. Like, whether we're looking at like which group of guys has the best collective beards, or if we're supposed to look at all three groups of collective guys and pick out the individual, I agree with you on both accounts. Yeah, like wrestling and Champa for sure.
Exactly.
And mostly because like in football, a big beard can become a hindrance quickly. Like a big beard in football is like basically like Tony Nese's beard. Like that's a big beard in football terms. So like and Tony Nese's beard is fucking tame compared to a lot of the other crazy beards we see. Like, did y'all see Dave Mastiff's beard today? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, dude.
All right. So up next, second question from Racist Fan Rocks. What do you think of my wrestling finisher? It's an uppercut to the nuts into a sleeper hold. I mean, good luck winning matches with that.
I pretty much said the same thing. It's a fine finisher if you don't get caught. So, yeah, good luck with that, man.
Yeah, I mean, unless you like, unless you go full Yano and you develop some kind of sequence that allows you to ensure that the referee's back is turned while you do the uppercut to the nuts, good luck winning with those.
Exactly.
Third and final question from Racist Fan Rocks 4. Why do I hate myself? Now, brother, I got to tell you, I don't think we're qualified to answer that question, but I'm going to let John handle this one.
I agree with Ashton. We're not qualified to handle this, but if you wanted me to humor you, I don't know, either because hell is other people or to be human is to suffer. So take your pick, I guess. That's the best I got.
All right, next up, we had two questions from Aaron Kuyenga. I really hope I pronounced your last name correctly that time, bud. First up, fantasy booking match idea. Minoru Suzuki versus Samoa Joe versus Jinny in an intergender, falls count anywhere, no disqualification triple threat. How does it go and who wins?
First of all, we all win, but more seriously, I would say that it goes 15 minutes, trying to be as realistic as possible. I don't see this being some crazy 30-minute or an hour clinic. 15 minutes.
I'll give it 20.
Suzuki wins after a gotch-style pile driver to Jinny, because she's crazy enough. I think she would take that spot, because, I mean, she is a student of Jimmy Havoc after all. So, yeah, gotch-style pile driver to Jinny. Suzuki gets the win.
Same, except I would have him do the pile driver to both of them and pin Joe.
Okay, fair enough.
Got to keep Jimmy Havoc strong, baby.
Yeah, buddy. There you go.
And by the way, my first of all, before I got caught up in just kind of trying to, you know, respond to your final decision, like your ending, your finish. I was going to say my first of all was going to be, we don't need to specify that it's no DQ because all triple threats are no DQ.
Yeah, there is no bell to ring. Yeah.
Yeah. So a triple threat match in and of itself implies no disqualifications. So it would be an intergender, falls count anywhere, triple threat match.
Yeah.
Second and final question from Aaron, though. Thoughts on herbal tea?
I don't care for tea at all, honestly. I always hated it. Like, I remember my first experience with it. I was a young kid, and I lost my voice, and I had to drink it. I loathe the shit. Although I will say, because I've never said this before, just put a little twist on the question, tea is one of those things that I wish I liked because of all, like, the health benefits and apparently, like, how good it is for you. I just can't stand the fucking tea. Like, it just, no. You know, if I want tea, pretty much I'll just drink hot water. It's practically the same fucking thing. So what about you, Ashton? You like herbal tea?
Well, I don't have an opinion because I've literally never even tried herbal tea.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm painfully unqualified to answer this question. Up next, though, we had 4 questions from Brandon Best. The first of which is, what is the game and how do you play it?
I didn't know how I wanted to approach this question, so I just said Triple H is the game, and you play it by beating him with a shovel first before he beats you. So that's the game, and that's how you play it.
Oh, I thought that he was talking about the game, like...
Yeah, I kind of thought that too, but I never know with Brandon. It's kind of a, you know...
Yeah.
I mean, in which case we already all lost, right? So there you go.
Right. Yeah. It's just because we're talking about it. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I lost the game in like fucking middle school. So I'm, you know, I've long had no stakes in the game.
Yeah.
Well, what is the game? It is a universal, perpetually going on game where the only objective is to be unaware that you're playing the game and as ignorant as possible to the game's existence, because you lose the game by knowing about the game and acknowledging its existence. So we are all losers here if you weren't already.
Absolutely.
Second question from Brandon. Do either of you have a particular wrestling style you enjoy watching more than anything else?
For me, it's technical wrestling first and foremost. You know, Guerrero, Benoit. I've watched some of Malenko's stuff. He's awesome too. But I think strong style comes in a close second for me. But technical wrestling will always and forever be just my fucking shit. It's amazing. What about you, Ashton? Do you have a style that you kind of prefer?
You know, it's kind of hard to describe. First of all, if we're just going for like an already defined style, it's a tough call for me between Lucha Libre and Strong Style because I just adore both of them. I guess if I had to pick one or the other, it would vary with the day, but just today I would probably say Lucha Libre. But really, I would say that my sort of preferred wrestling style is like just fast paced. Like, even if you're not doing lucha shit, if you're just moving with like a good pace in the ring, I'm usually sucked in pretty quickly.
I'm right there with you. I find that agreeable.
Yeah, like I understand guys like Cornette and Meltzer being like, oh, these guys can't keep bumping their necks to sawdust. And I even agree with that to some degree. Although I also feel like leave their bodily autonomy up to them.
Right, exactly.
But the thing is, you don't have to bump your neck to sawdust to just work with a fucking decent pace. You know what I mean? Like just being in the ring and just having a sense of urgency about the way you move is enough to get me hooked. And especially in WWE, not nearly enough people do that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree there. I couldn't have said
I think
that.
that's a big reason why you and I are both so drawn to Andrade, because even though like he has a couple of flashier moves like the double moonsault, but most of his move set isn't like crazy. Like there are no crazy neck bumps involved. He doesn't do a bunch of crazy flippy shit. He just has that sense of urgency in the ring where it's like he moves with that extra sense of purpose.
Yeah, man, definitely. I completely agree.
I don't know if you would consider that a wrestling style, but that would be my answer. And if you don't want to accept that, then yeah, Lucha Libre would be my answer. Third question from Brandon Best. If you could have been flies on the wall during any bad segment or storyline, which would it be?
Easily for me, Triple H wanting to perform necrophilia disguised as Kane during his whole feud with Kane in 02. Like, how that idea ever got greenlit, I would have loved to have fucking seen the conversation and the approval. And I would have been even more hysterical if it was simply just Triple H being like, hey, Vince, I'm doing this tonight. Okay. And that's it, which I wouldn't even put it past him if that was all there was. But yeah, that's easily.
Dude, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall during the entire era of Monday Night Raw where they were backstage trying to figure out who the fuck they were going to make the anonymous Raw GM.
Yeah, dude, that's a great answer too. I love that.
Right? Because that went on for months and it was just this obnoxious computer and then like Michael Cole reading it. And there was so much speculation, like, oh, the anonymous Raw GM is going to be revealed to be. And then, like, they didn't even know. And then years later, they were like, oh, it was Hornswoggle all along. But you know that wasn't anything to do with their original plans. That was a cop-out.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, that must have been complete and utter bedlam backstage trying to figure that shit out. That's a great answer, dude.
I mean, I'm sure that they weren't like in a panic, like throwing papers in the air, running around in a panic backstage or anything. But like, you just know that was like one of those subjects where like they would be in a writing meeting and Vince would be there. And one of the writers would be like, so is this the week where we're going to actually figure out who the Raw GM is going to be? And it's like that moment in like the fucking Davos conference where somebody suggested that maybe billionaires should be taxed more. It was just like, oh, man, why you got saying that? Why would you say that? Come on, man. And Vince is just sitting at the end of the table and he rolls his eyes and he puts his hands in the air. It's just like, well, you know what, guys? I was planning on being here for a few hours, but I think I'm going to call it early. I'm going to get steak wrap with ketchup on it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But okay. Next question is just for you, John. Suzuki Thez in a worked shoot style wrestling match where grappling and strikes are the primary focus. Who wins?
I would love Catch Wrestling U's opinion on this because I picked Suzuki, first of all, but I do so because in my mind, I've watched one Thez match and we live read to it. It was a Patreon request. I'm sure you guys can find it on the channel if you dig deep enough in the archives. And Thez is fine. He's legitimate and all, but I've just always gotten this sense that wrestling in Japan has always been a step or two ahead of the US. And like, you know, the catch wrestling dojos and everything and the kind of education Suzuki got, I feel like he's just more versatile than Thez. And I just feel like, I'm not saying he would mop the floor with him, you know, but I ultimately do think that Suzuki would get the edge in the end. I got to go with Suzuki-sama, especially because look at the rate he's competing at today in his 50s. Now imagine if both these guys faced off with each other in their prime, like, nah, fam, Suzuki's got this. Like, I'm not trying to kid myself. Suzuki wins. So next. Hello. But yeah, I guess.
Oh shit! Sorry, dude. I have my mic muted. We've got 5 questions coming up though from Super Blue. First up, do you think that the government is going to shut down again on February 15th, or do you think that Donald Trump will declare a national emergency in order to bypass Congress altogether to get his wall?
I believe government will shut down again, and hopefully national protests will ensue from the country's unions. And I have a bit more to say about that later in an unrelated question. But yeah, I would just hope nationwide protests from all like the leading unions and just, you know, everyday people would fucking ensue. But yeah, I definitely think it's going to be shut down again. I mean, imagine the worst possible scenario, and that's what's most likely to happen, which I guess in this case would be a state of emergency. So maybe I should even say that. It's just
I was gonna say the latter because I think like Donald Trump is just like such a child and so petulant that I fully expect him to declare a state of emergency over a literal non-crisis.
Yeah, exactly.
So, second question from Super Blue: how would you rank Wrestle Kingdom 9 through Wrestle Kingdom 13? He gave us his rankings. He has 9 over 13, over 11, over 12, over 10. And he specifies that 9 gets the edge because of the build to that show.
My ranking is 1 Wrestle Kingdom 9, 2 Wrestle Kingdom 13, 3 Wrestle Kingdom 11, 4 Wrestle Kingdom 10, and 5 Wrestle Kingdom 12, because I remember even outside the main event of Naito not going over, which to me is still one of the biggest mistakes New Japan has made, just being kind of underwhelmed by that Wrestle Kingdom. So that gets bottom tier for me, but I'm curious about your ranking, Ashton.
Yeah, you know, I think I would also put 9 at 1. Let's see. I'm actually looking over the cards just to see if I can remember as much as I can. So Wrestle Kingdom 9, I'm pretty confident is number 1 because that was like, not only was that our first exposure to New Japan, but even in hindsight, it was legitimately like one of their best put together Wrestle Kingdoms that we've seen.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try and list them in order of my preference yet. I'm going in order like chronologically. So Wrestle Kingdom 10 was let's see, Lethal Elgin, Kushida, Omega. I don't remember that, but that was obviously the day before Omega turned on Styles and stuff. GBH versus the Club, Goto Naito. I don't remember that either. Shibata Ishii, I remember. Nakamura Styles was underwhelming. Okada Tanahashi was amazing because Okada finally beat Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom. Let's see, Wrestle Kingdom 11. That was Cody Juice, Cole O'Reilly, Hiromu Kushida, Goto Shibata. Okay. So, believe it or not, I think I'm going to end up agreeing with you almost to the letter. Because what was your ranking again? I know you had 9, then 13, and I agree with that so far. 9, then 13. Then what did you do after that?
Then I had 11, 10, and 12 coming in last.
Right. Okay. Man, it's a tough call for me though, because like 12 12 was really underwhelming because of Okada Naito having such a disappointing finish. But like the rest of that card was so good. Like Suzuki getting his head shaved was a great moment. Ibushi beating Cody was nice. Osprey winning the junior title was cool. No, I don't know, man. I honestly, I think I want to put 10 in dead last.
Okay.
Really, like that was like 2 great matches to me, and the rest of it was pretty underwhelming. Because like the 2 great matches on that to me were Shibata Ishii and Okada Tanahashi 3. Let's see. Now, so I'm kind of figuring it out like from the ends. Like I have Wrestle Kingdom 9 as number 1. Wrestle Kingdom 10 is probably number 5. Naito Tanahashi, I barely remember that, but I remember that like they really like strong armed that like Naito Tanahashi and then Okada Omega like split for months after that, where they like only faced that guy. I tell you what, based on lack of memorability, I'm gonna put 11 in my 4 slot.
Okay.
And then I'll say 13 at 2, 12 at 3. So 9, then 13, then 12, then 11, then 10.
All right, man. Next question.
Man, that was a little bit of a task, but we got through it. Third question from Super Blue. How does NXT UK Takeover Blackpool compare to NXT Takeover Phoenix?
To me personally, it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Because really, like, the best match on Takeover Blackpool was the tag match, and that would have been like the if probably best match on Takeover Phoenix. Like, I probably maybe fourth. But I would definitely put like the 3 big men's title matches ahead of that tag title match. So like War Raiders, Undisputed Era, Ricochet, Gargano, and Ciampa Black. I would put all 3 of those matches ahead of the NXT UK tag title match on Takeover Blackpool. And then like it becomes a tougher call for me with Bianca Shayna, but I would still probably put Bianca Shayna ahead of it too. I don't know. How about you?
I would certainly, for me personally, put Bianca Shayna over Tony and Ripley if we're just comparing women's match to women's match. Tag title match. I mean, even that, like, that was good. And I think it did hurt a little bit that we had to take a break, like, during a part of that match. So it wasn't like a full viewing experience like Undisputed Era and War Raiders. Because I guarantee if we had to take a break during that or like something happened, the momentum would have kind of died. So I'm not going to try and judge that unfairly. But to me, it's like the only kind of nitpick I have really thinking back to the matches mentally, I thought that Black Ciampa might have been a bit overdone with 4 fairy tale endings, which was kind of reminiscent of Joe Coffey taking all these bitter ends, because I just hate that type of booking. But even then, I feel like Black Ciampa had more of a story and definitely more legitimate animosity than fucking Coffey.
Well, that, and also I'll even add to that it's fucking Aleister Black versus Joe Coffey. Like, really? How can you, like, I get it with Aleister, it might have been a little overkill, but with Joe fucking Coffey, it's extreme overkill.
Yeah, definitely. I think you said it perfectly. To me, Phoenix blew Blackpool out of the water. For UK fans who enjoyed it, I'm so happy for them. I think they deserve more wrestling content for how rabid they are for wrestling, and I sincerely mean that. It's just going to be a no from me. Again, the tag match was fine. Everything else, honestly, you could have put this on an episode of Standard NXT, and it probably would have made for a really good NXT episode. But for a takeover, we're talking about like takeover standards and stuff, which we talked about at length in our Phoenix preview predictions.
Yeah, I feel like NXT UK getting takeovers this early was jumping the gun, because we've got to remember that NXT as a brand had like 2 full years basically to get its feet underneath it before it had any pay-per-views.
Yeah, it's trying to walk before it's even really known how to crawl.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's like you're being blunt, and it maybe comes off as a little bit mean, but I do agree with you for sure. Like it's one of those situations where NXT UK still hasn't really quite figured out how to just consistently keep their viewers engaged on a weekly basis, and they're already getting pay-per-views. Whereas with NXT, in the early days, they had that exact same problem where they would have like 1 or 2 really cool things every week, and then like 1 or 2 like really lame, like I don't want to watch this anymore kind of things every week.
Right, exactly.
After like maybe 9 months to a year, they had finally kind of gotten it figured out to a point where it's like, okay, now we are going to be like we figured it out, and we're able to put on consistently great programming every single week with the occasional rare hiccup where it's, not as good. And then another like 6 to 9 months after that, they got their first pay-per-view, and that was NXT Arrival. That wasn't even a takeover. That was considered pre-takeover, NXT Arrival.
Yeah. So I just really didn't care for it at all.
And in as far as like the world title matches go, here's the thing, guys. Even if I'm not necessarily being fair by saying like, oh God, look, it's Aleister Black and oh, it's Joe Coffey. Really, just the perception going into the show was that Aleister Black was the better wrestler than Tommaso Ciampa, but Ciampa is willing to do whatever it takes to win. So it would make sense that it would take more to put Black away. Whereas with Dunn Coffey, the perception was very much that Dunn was the better wrestler because Coffey always was needing help from Gallus. So that's what frustrated me so much about both shows, really, is that Dunn needed to stoop to 4 bitter ends and then couldn't even get the win off of that and had to resort to a submission to win. That annoyed the fuck out of me. And even the Ciampa Black situation kind of annoyed me because like Ciampa spent so much time in the lead up running away from Black and being scared of him, and then he basically just out wrestled him. So that frustrated me too, but that wasn't as frustrating to me as Joe Coffey randomly deciding to go fucking Superman and kick out of 4 goddamn bitter ends.
Yeah. Oh, dude, absolutely. I completely agree with you.
So anyway, I think we can move on. The 4th question from Super Blue is, how would you feel if Kushida became the male version of Asuka in NXT and won the WWE title at WrestleMania 37 over AJ Styles in Atlanta? That would be a TWitWoW dream come true to me.
If that happens, I'm more likely to kill myself than to stop watching wrestling, which, I mean, if you do the one, kind of necessitates the latter. But we always say, oh, if this happens, I'm going to stop watching. We never stop watching. The only way that's going to end is when I end, so I would definitely choose that option if I knew that Kushida had won the WWE Championship. No fucking way.
And like, here's the thing. Shinsuke Nakamura has more charisma in his pinky finger than Kushida has ever had in his entire existence. And even he has never won a WWE title because of the lack of ability to cut fluent English promos.
Yes.
Without like the thick Japanese accent. Because like you might be fluent in a language, but if you still have a thick enough accent that you get what chance as a super over baby face, Vince isn't going to buy into you. And that's like, I think that's a problem that the Iconics have, where they get what chance because sometimes their accents are just so thick that the general audience has a hard time understanding them. That's a problem that Asuka has occasionally, and at least she now has won a women's title. And that's also a problem that Nakamura pretty consistently has. And at the very least, when he first had his heel turn, he was leaning into it, like the old like no speak English thing. But I really do think that having like the super thick accents that make it difficult for an American audience to understand everything you're saying is like a massive obstacle in Vince's eyes.
Dude, that's why I'm so excited for Kyrie, though, because her
Yeah.
English is so damn good. Like, I really hope they get behind her big time, if for no other reason, because she really dedicated herself to picking up the
Yeah,
language.
like that and the fact that she's just so wholesome and adorable to the point that I doubt they would ever even try to turn her heel are the two big reasons why I'm convinced that they are less likely to fuck her up than just about anyone else.
Yeah, so next question.
Fifth and final question from Super Blue. This was originally a Kushida question, but he changed it out because he knew how salty we were about Kushida based on your rant in our last live reaction video. How do you feel about Hideo Itami's WWE career, and where will he go next?
I'll just take this straight away. I think he's going to come home to Noah. I think, like Pac with Dragon Gate, he feels a deep sense of loyalty to Noah. I mean, hell, WWE worked out an agreement with Noah just so he could come back and work that one match with Marufuji. Now that the strings are cut, I think he's going to do so much more with them. As far as his WWE run, I mean, look, he caught the injury bug. I think that made him probably lose a lot of trust with people that, have the power to make decisions. But it really is a shame because having gone back and watched his Kenta matches and watched his Japan stuff and even appreciating his NXT stuff, like I still feel like his match with Bobby Roode at TakeOver Chicago for the NXT Championship was probably one of the best matches in Bobby Roode's NXT tenure because we got to see a little bit of Kenta there. The dude's he's amazing. He's an amazing striker. He's an amazing worker. I don't know how much the shoulder injury has taken that away. That's what I'm really curious about, is seeing him work not under a WWE microscope, because even the Noah deal, that was facilitated by WWE, so you don't know how much, Hideo had to rein it in against Marufuji because, I got to go back and work the WWE style. I'm curious.
Yo, how crazy would it be, though, if his first match back in Noah proper was against Marufuji and he got to go all out? Oh,
dude. And that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm really hoping for. I wish he could have been so much bigger because I genuinely love the dude. But if he does go back to Noah, like I'm thinking, I will find a way, even if it's just like checking Daily Motion every day after he has a match. I want to stay abreast of his career. It could have been more. I think the culture of WWE, where trust is so freely given to some, and yet you'll never earn it with others, and yet it's so quickly taken away, really killed him.
Favoritism.
Exactly, in a word. And he could have been more. The idea that he never won a single championship in his run, to me, is a fucking joke. Not even a tag title, which, speaking of tag teams, most heartbreaking thing about him returning to Noah, it's a shame that what happened to Shibata did, because they used to be a tag team in Noah. I would fucking murder someone to see a tag team match with Hideo, with Kenta. I'm going to put some fucking respect on it. None of that Hideo Itami shit. Kenta and Shibata together. And that's probably the heartbreaking thing. But he did the best he could with what he was given, and I just wish he was given more. The idea that he was even on 205 Live when I wanted to see him mix it up with Finn Balor or Bryan Styles, they just never knew what they had in him, I don't think. And I think it's only because of the unfortunate injuries. One caused by Riddick, green as goose shit Moss, and then the other freak thing with the shoulder, which is going to happen when you've worked as long as he has, and it's a shame. But he's free now, and I'm looking at the open terrain of the future, and the future looks fucking beautiful. So there you go.
Yep. All right. That was a beautiful answer. And honestly, I really don't have anything to add. I do agree that it's very likely that he will go straight back to Noah. I'm hoping, though, I really am hoping that he gets in on like a sort of like an Ibushi deal where he's basically a free agent, but he ends up working with New Japan too. I really wanted Tommy in New Japan, or I guess I should say Kenta at this point in New Japan.
Dude, you know what? Here's the funny thing. If I could just respond to that very quickly, because like I agree with you, right? Because, dude, don't think I haven't gone to bed at night sometimes. Because sometimes, like when I cancel it, like I'll just like fantasy book like certain matches or whatever. Don't think I haven't thought about fucking Kenta versus Okada, because I have, and it's fucking amazing. But
see, and I was more just thinking like get him in a G1 like they did with
yeah, get him in a G1, have him fucking work.
Oh, that reminds me. They got to bring back Nakajima for another G1 too.
Dude, Nakajima versus Kenta, or Nakajima and Kenta as a team.
Like, because that's the thing too, is like when we saw Nakajima in that G1 a few years ago, we were constantly comparing him to Shibata. And now, like, Shibata isn't like wrestling anymore, unfortunately. As much as I would love to see him get healthy enough to make a comeback, it doesn't seem very likely. But like, if Nakajima is the next closest thing, yes, please.
I mean, I just want to see Kenta fucking unleash. I saw people posting clips of like his TI What You Know instrumental theme that he used to use in like ROH and like I guess towards the end of his Noah run. Like people want fucking Kenta, and the big question will be that I've always had: was your move set and the way you governed yourself because of the WWE style, or because of the injuries, or maybe a little column A, a little column B? I'm interested to see how he'll work now that the strings have been cut. And you know, the funny thing is, I think it was James that asked if anybody knows like if Nakamura wants to stay in the US. I've heard from some people that he apparently loves Florida. So who even fucking knows? Maybe
Oh, I see, and that's the thing. If he does love Florida, and if he enjoys Florida more than he is loyal to Noah, fucking AEW all the way.
And see, that's the crazy thing, because like that's the one thing I want to like point out just very quickly. Not that it's a bad thing, and I understand where it's coming from. Find it kind of dangerous though that a lot of fan discourse, like I saw one person tweet, New Japan or AEW for Kenta. And like a lot of people I think don't seem to know that like his roots run deep in Noah. You know, not saying that like he won't pick either of those things, but I really do think even if it's a short stint, he's gonna do some more business in Noah. Like
You know what though, dude? I don't think that people are doing that necessarily out of ignorance. I don't think that they're just like, oh, well, these are the only two logical options. You couldn't possibly go anywhere else. I think it's more along the lines of like wishful thinking, because those are like going to end up being the two most accessible wrestling promotions. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Other than like Impact and Ring of Honor, which I'm sure most people are kind of jaded about already. And actually, I know for a fact that most people are jaded about Ring of Honor. I think that there are fewer people jaded about Impact these days than there are Ring of Honor, which is so opposite to what we've grown used to. But yeah, I definitely feel like that's less of an there are no other possible options than these, and more along the lines of please let him go somewhere that I can watch him. You know?
Dude, I'm gonna put a pin in this question, at least on my side with this. I just want to see him fucking smack a bitch. Like Kenta smack a bitch, where he smacks them so hard they go down to a knee. I miss those Kenta strikes. I know Javaris does too. I know the TWitWoW pimp hears me. You know you miss those Kenta strikes. I want to see him go all out, strong style on a motherfucker. I just really I can't wait. I've missed so much of his offense because when you go back and you watch his early stuff, dude, I mean, his Busaiku knees, he used to do springboard stuff that I never really saw him do in E. He just does so much good shit. I really hope that we can still see it. I hope that it's not a case of like, you know, body being worn down. And again, and even if it is a little column A, a little column B, I'm just hoping that he can show more than what we've seen in WWE. And it really is just that style that they force these guys that come from either the Indies or Japan to work as kind of an adaptive process. So we'll see, but whatever his first match is, I am all over that fucking shit.
All right. Up next, we've got 3 questions from Rotten Butter, the first of which is the usual Rotten Butter first question. He literally just typed Blarg.
Yeah. So yeah, just to give a very quick breakdown, I watch shows with the family. These shows include Unreal, which is amazing. We did Stephen King's new show Castle Rock on Hulu. That was wonderful. And just all that other stuff. I've been reading a lot more philosophy lately because I made a personal commitment to read more in 2019. And so far I've been following through, which is wonderful. You know, Ashton, that me and Ron, we watched Punisher season 2 together, as well as what we had remaining of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We rewatched Thor Ragnarok and Infinity War. Yes. For me personally, I listened to Raven Face's latest album. I think Raven Face is one of my favorite bands going right now, which is amazing. I watched the first 2 episodes of Arrow season 7 with James, and James, I really do want to finish that out. We will find a time. I know it's resuming. Sorry we couldn't beat the hiatus, but it's there. Finish The Good Place. That season wrapped up. Good Place is fucking amazing. Yeah, things have been good. Things have been really good, and I think I'm just going to stop there because I don't want to have to rack my brain too long to think of other stuff. That's just the stuff most immediately that comes to mind. What about you, Ashton? Is there anything you want to add on your end?
Well, we've watched the first 2 episodes of Deadly Class, and that's been great.
Yes.
I know you're a huge fan of the comics because after we watched the first episode a little while ago, you went through and just plowed through all the comics, and I'm
Yes.
a little jealous at your pure willpower to just sit down and read for hours on end because I do not possess that ability.
Yeah.
Even like when I was in high school, I think the only time that I ever sat down and read for more than like 45 minutes was fucking Harry Potter books. So, um, let's see. So we did that. Let's see. What else is there, John? What's the other? Wasn't there another sci-fi show that we started watching?
Yes, it was, but didn't we just drop it so quickly because it was weird? It was that alien show with all the people on the ship, but I forget the name.
Oh
of
no,
it.
no. Oh yeah, dude. Okay, so that was a thing. I wasn't even talking about that though. I thought that there was another sci-fi show. Maybe it's like an upcoming sci-fi.
I
Oh,
mean, we did do.
Christian season 4, episode 1. Oh,
Yes.
so good. Oh, I can't wait to watch another episode. Wait, didn't that air last night?
It aired last night. I didn't know though if you, because I know like you.
Yeah,
whether
no, that we're definitely gonna have to watch that. And wasn't there another new episode of Deadly Class last night too?
there was, yes.
Oh yes, we're gonna get to those tonight. That's exciting. Video games wise, literally nothing new. I've just been, John and I play Rocket League almost every night, and I recently got back into Robopon 2, and I think I might have actually found a way to speedrun it. So I might end up putting that up on my gaming channel at some point. We'll see.
All right.
Let's see. Oh, Terra Jr. finally released a full-length album. It's called Unfortunately Terra Jr. and it's amazing. It's 15 tracks, and there are only like 1 or 2 of them that I'm not absolutely in love with, and even then I still dig them, just don't absolutely love them. Yeah, it's a great. If you like pop music, it's perfect for you. It's like they broke pop music as far as I'm concerned. And they now have a 42 track library, which I have the entirety of in a playlist that I just play on repeat sometimes. So that was great. Hamilton. John and I watched to Hamilton. And basically what happened was we listened to it because I just was able to download it on my phone on Napster, and it was just there. So we listened to it, and I enjoyed it so much. I went out and found a video version that we were able to watch. So we were able to actually watch Hamilton, and it's so good. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And hell, you know what? Speaking of musicals, there's actually one other musical that I've watched. I think it's called Firebringer. Look it up.
Cool. Yeah, in the meantime, some of our chat
it's called
sharing.
Firebringer. It's on YouTube actually by a group called Team Star Kid, and they have a bunch of musicals, but the one that I watched is called Firebringer, and it's like this cute little like explanation on like the first person who discovered fire and used it to like feed their tribe and shit. And it doesn't make any attempts to be historically accurate by any means, but it's cute and it's fun, and the music numbers are really fun and really good. So yeah, I enjoyed that. Let's see what else. I want to say that's about it, but I just feel like we're forgetting a movie or something that we watched that I just am blanking on.
I did mention Infinity War, Thor Ragnarok.
No, yeah, I know about that. I remember that. I guess the only other one that I can think of that I personally watched, because I know you and I have watched this before, but I went back and rewatched it on Netflix, was Saving Capitalism with Robert Reich.
Yeah, that's right.
I gotta say though, like even the second time watching it, I think I know why I decided that I wanted to watch it a second time, and it's because it feels like a very hollow thing. Like it's like, oh, look at all of these people who are unhappy. This isn't right. End.
Yeah.
They didn't really do too much to be like, here's what we can do to fix it. Here are some stats that show you what the problem is and what this exact same economy looks like when these problems aren't a thing. Like I wish that they would have gone further as far as offering solutions rather than just being like, oh hey, people are really unhappy and poor and listen to all these terrible sob stories that most Americans deal with every day. End of documentary. Like that's what it felt like to me. It was just felt very hollow. And I like Robert Reich, and he had I don't know if he still has it up, but at one point he had a YouTube channel that was like Fight for 15, where he would present all of these really cool like analytical facts and data and statistics and stuff that would suggest that like here's the US compared to every other developed country in the stuff that we're not good at, and here's how we can get better at those things. And like I was kind of expecting Saving Capitalism to be a documentary, like a full-length documentary version of those videos, and I didn't get anywhere close to what I expected. So a little disappointed on that front.
Right.
I don't really know. No. Okay. So as far as YouTube channels go, there are 3-ish sort of like progressive like YouTube talk shows that I've discovered over the last month or so that like I haven't even fully subscribed to yet, but they show up in my recommended feed a lot. And of course, because I'm like looking at 3 different channels that cover similar subjects, of course they're all going to have videos about the same shit all the time, and I usually favor one over the other two. And the one that I usually favor over the other two is the David Pakman show. I don't know if you know about that at all, John. But yeah, there's the one one is the David Pakman show. One, I think the one that I'm like the least enthusiastic about because he seems like really like pompous and like if you don't get this, you're fucking stupid kind of guy, which I really don't like, is the National or the Rational National. And then the one that I just discovered like a couple days ago was the one that I was telling you about, John. I'm having a hard time remembering the name of it. It's with Sam Cedar.
The Majority Report, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Majority Report with Sam Cedar. Thank you. Yeah, so that was the other one, and I think I already like him more than I like the Rational National. So I think I'm gonna try it and like just drop the Rational National completely because he doesn't really seem to cover anything that the other two don't already cover. Really, the only other quote unquote content that I would say that I've consumed over the last month that was new is I followed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Twitter, and she's fucking an amazing follow on Twitter. She's great. So that's about the extent of my new stuff that I've consumed. Anyway, up next, second question from Rotten Butter. What living person whom you don't know personally would you say you respect the most?
Kairi Sane for wrestling, obviously, and I also gave one for philosophy. Brian McGee for philosophy because he's almost like 90 years old, and he actually brought a lot of visibility to the public, like about philosophy and philosophical problems related to everyday life. I pretty much think he's like the Carl Sagan of philosophy, and what Carl Sagan did for science. Brian McGee did for philosophy, and he was one of the first like public philosophers, at least in like the Western world. And I'll always have an immense respect for him for that. So yeah, my 2 choices there.
This is a really difficult question for me. Like when you said Kairi Sane, I was really confused because like what has she done that causes you to respect her more than any other wrestler?
I just think she's so good to everybody, and you don't see that kind of goodness. I mean, this is the same woman that got Chance from a pocket of the crowd at Full Sail, Pearl Harbor, and she responds with like an image of people of all different races and walks of life holding hands atop the globe. Like, you know, anybody that can be just that pure and that loving when I know I don't have that kind of love in me for people is just something that I immensely respect. So,
nice. Okay. Well, I will say, just from a pure workhorse standpoint, in the sense that he puts more hours into it than literally anyone I know, or anyone I don't know, or anyone that I know of. My sort of football answer would be Evan Silva from Roto World, because I'm pretty sure he watches literally every single player in the league somehow, because he has opinions on literally every single player in the league. And like he writes a column every week on every fantasy relevant player in the league. And like the amount of time that he must spend watching tape is ridiculous to me. And I don't even aspire to that. Like I have no aspirations to become that level of film grinder. And frankly, I'm the opposite. Like I'm making it a goal to watch less film because I'm trying to get everything done with just numbers if I can. But still, like I have an immense amount of respect for him for the amount of work that he puts into it. And like for the most part, he's like a really respectable dude on Twitter too. Like he's not like one of these like jackass snobs who's just like, if you disagree with me, you're an absolute idiot and you don't deserve to share the same airspace as me kind of guy. And there are a lot of people like that in football and especially in the fantasy football community. And the thing is, like, there are a lot of people in the fantasy football community that are incredibly intelligent. And I think that a lot of people underestimate how intelligent fantasy football analysts when it comes to real football, because there are a lot of things that fantasy football analysts have been saying for, if not years, maybe even a decade or more, that is only starting to become prominent in the NFL today. And John, I don't need to tell you how many more points were scored this year than usual.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So and it's funny because a big part of that is because NFL offenses are starting to make more and more decisions with a mindset that people who analyze and break down fantasy football would suggest to use. They're basically going with optimal decision making rather than we're going to establish the run and make sure that they know that we can run the ball on them even when they're expecting it and shit like that gets you 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Let's see. The reason though that this is such a difficult question for me is because I say, oh, I really respect Evan Silva, and then I'm immediately met with feelings of like, did you really just say that the person you respect most in the world is a fucking fantasy football analyst? That's gross. But like, I don't know. Like, I just said the name of a guy who I admire. Like, it's more admiration than respect, honestly, because I just don't know. Like, I don't think I have a good answer for this, honestly, and it makes me feel bad, but I just don't know. Maybe, you know what? Maybe Suzuki would be a good answer. Like, if you say Kyrie, I say Suzuki, just because like he's been in the business so long. He's 50-something years old, and he still puts on more entertaining matches than most 20-something year olds.
Yeah, I'll fucking say.
Yeah. So I mean, I wish that I had like some kind of philosophical or political or religious answer that could have more of a deep meaning, but I just don't, because I just don't give that much of a shit about that stuff. I guess maybe Bernie Sanders would be a good answer, but even he, like, there have been weird reports about like sexual harassment going on, not necessarily with him directly, but in his camp, like people that work under him or something. I don't know.
I didn't know about that.
I don't know anything about it either, but Mark Schoeneman said something about it in Discord the other day, so it's got me a little bit on my heels. But yeah, like if I had to come up with some kind of like a political answer, it would probably be Bernie, because like he's had so many stances that we view today as, well, obviously, obviously gay people should be allowed to marry. Well, obviously we should have equal rights regardless of skin color. Obviously, like we see it as obvious today. Back in the 60s when he was protesting for it, it wasn't as unanimous of a thing. And he was on the right side of history more than anyone else that I know of. So massive props to Bernie Sanders. I guess that would be my sort of deeper answer,
That's a great answer, man. And I think on that note, we can move on to Rotten Butter's
second question from Rotten Butter. No, that was the second question. So third and final question from Rotten Butter. Whose line is it anyway?
I never cared for that show, but I'll never tire of being the serious man of these questions. So what about you, Ashton? Whose line is it anyway?
Oh, you really didn't like that show?
No.
Oh, all I know is that it's the show where everything's made up and the points don't matter.
Exactly. Next set of questions.
3 questions from Golden Elite. since Lucha Underground always seems to acknowledge their former WWE guys' pasts in WWE, how do you think they will reconcile the former Wade Barrett becoming a billionaire overlord who has assembled this order and all that? Basically, how he became so powerful in the Luchaverse.
I'm thinking they won't acknowledge his WWE past. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like. I feel like you write your own rules, and I don't think that Lucha Underground necessarily sees it as a rule, being like, if we bring in somebody who was in WWE, we have to acknowledge that. I think that that's just a thing that they do sometimes to help get certain guys more over. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a very detailed cinematic, hopefully. To be perfectly honest, I don't even know about the state of season 5 period, but all things assumed that, it's going to happen and everything. It'll probably just be an in-depth cinematic kind of detailing everything. And I don't think they'll acknowledge the history, especially with the way the character is positioned. Like that would just be like, it'd just be weird,
Yeah. I felt like there was like, I felt like there was like an unhealthy amount of season 5 is going to happen assumption going on in this Q&A.
Yeah, I for the first time, because I think I've always had like a healthy skepticism. Maybe I even have an unhealthy skepticism at this point. I just don't feel good about it. I'm not going to lie about it. Like I'm definitely pessimistic about this season happening. But assuming it does, definitely just an in-depth cinematic. So next question from Golden Elite.
Do you think we will get more non-wrestler members of the Order in future seasons? And again, we have to tack on to this every time, assuming there are future seasons.
I would just say yes. I think Lucha Underground definitely knows how to employ like non-wrestler actors. So I will definitely say yeah, that probably will happen.
Probably, but it's a tough call though, because like even the quote unquote non-wrestler member of the Order that we know of right now, which is Vampiro, has had a match in Lucha Underground already. So how can we even call him a non-wrestler just because he doesn't do that's like not his primary job?
That's very true. That's an excellent point. But I just think, if he's thinking more like people like the mayor and stuff like that, then
the Lord. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about like Agent Winter or Lawrence Delgado.
Yeah, Lawrence Delgado, Winter, people like that. I definitely think there will be more people like that because I think they're going to want to flesh out Barrett's connections as a billionaire.
I don't know though, because I kind of feel like those were like the last two. Like, I mean, is Winter dead? I forget. He's still around, isn't he?
Oh, he's still around. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay. So maybe like the Lord's influence reaches further than we realize, and there are like plenty more of people who he's got his money in their pockets, kind of thing. That's
right.
That's a healthy guess. Third and final question from Golden Elite. According to TV tropes, which immediately I'm skeptical, but according to TV tropes, the name of the final tribe is the Owl Tribe, not Death. And he suggested a 7-on-7 tag match that he wants us to, I guess, comment on. The tag match, though, is Mil Muertes, El Dragon Azteca Jr., King Cuerno. He put King Puma. I'm assuming he's talking about Puma King, the guy that we've seen in PWG previews recently. Mariposa, Daga, and Cobra Moon. Now, I guess in this situation, Daga would have to be representing the Rabbit tribe because that's the only tribe not represented, I think. But then versus the Lord, White Rabbit, Hexagon, Jake Strong, Ryback, or whoever they bring in, Marty and Taya.
I mean, that sounds like the purest, like quintessential fantasy booking to me. But entertaining it, I will say that sounds like one bluster cluck of a tag match. But if anyone
I mean, here's the thing. If they get a season 5, but they are told like prerequisitely, this is your last season, that 7-on-7 match, and I don't necessarily agree with the personnel, but like a big 7-on-7 match with a representative from each tribe facing off with 7 gods should be the final match in Lucha Underground history. And frankly, if they do, which they have every season, so the final episode, the 2-hour season finale, should consist of that match and only that match, and it should be an elimination match.
I completely agree with that. To the letter.
It should be a 2 hour long 7-on-7 elimination match for the right to the world, basically. And then any follow up that needs to happen, you have that extra 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the show to cinematic your asses off.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Ashton. Absolutely.
All right. Up next, we had 2 questions from Ace the Skylord. Nice to see you back to asking questions, buddy. First up, have you had the chance to watch Dragon Ball Super Broly yet? And if so, thoughts on the movie? Yes, we just watched it. I think last night, or was it the night before?
Night before.
It was Tuesday. That's right. And it was fun, man. I enjoyed it. It was definitely the best Broly movie that they've ever put out by like a lot. Because really, like, not only was the animation a step up from the previous 3 Broly movies, but the origin story was significantly better. And I enjoy this canon version of Broly far more than the non-canon version of Broly.
You pretty much said everything that I was going to say. I love this interpretation of Broly so much. I think they really humanized him, which Dragon Ball's always had. Like, I would love, like, because I do like the popular culture books. I would love like a philosophy of DBZ one day, because Goku, even though he loves to fight, he's also like a pacifist. Like Vegeta even comments at the end of the Buu arc, like how infuriating that is to him. Like, he has the heart of a pacifist, but he loves to fight because he always shows mercy to these people, like Frieza and Gohan, through his son showed mercy to Cell, saying, look, we don't have to do this. And to give Broly that chance when I feel like he was one of the few characters not given that chance is really cool. And especially because he seems deserving of it, unlike a Frieza or a Cell or what have you. So I thought Broly's interpretation was great. I thought the fight scenes were fantastic because it's a fucking DBZ movie. It's not fucking art house. Like, give me somebody getting punched in the face. Give me ki blasts. Give me all that. That was great. And Frieza is just an amazing heel. And I will say, we watched it in dubbed, and the dub voice actors, Sean Schemmel, Chris Sabat, fucking legends. I will never, ever take away anything that they've done. But if I'm truthful, the one thing missing from that movie was subbed Frieza's laugh. Because that laugh was the most the most iconic thing in fucking Dragon Ball Super. And don't even fucking at me. I don't want to hear it because your opinion's just wrong. So yeah, it was just fucking amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I can't wait for another movie, especially with the way that they set up a sequel of Frieza potentially coming back to collect Broly and just everything they've been doing, or just a continuation of the Super Show itself. I don't care. Just give me more. I know in the gaming department, they've got Project Z coming out. I'm more focused on Fighter Z when that goes down in price. But show-wise, I hope either a direct movie sequel or just the resuming of the series is the next thing to happen. So, yeah.
All right. Second and final question from Ace the Skylord. Realistically, what are your expectations for AEW?
For the moment, I'm going to say AEW is immensely intriguing with its significant financial backing and potentially securing TNT as a network, which I know Ash and I have talked about. It could be fucking huge. Like, I think that's amazing for them because already right out on the gate, I think they've got more eyes on them than TNA ever did. Again, though, as I say with any new startup, I don't care how much money you have. I don't care the talent you have. You got to crawl before you can walk. WWE has been around forever. That's why no matter how bad business does, like, it's that old reliable. Like, people are always going to know that, like, WWE is there, both as fans and as workers, both sides of the divide. You've really got to build yourself up to be that viable alternative. And I don't want to see this promotion burn its resources too quickly to try and get to the top. It's got to be a delicate process. That said, I think it's a really, again, intriguing prospect. I will say the one concern, because I know me and Ash were hashing this out on Rocket League, because where else? And it does seem to be kind of contributing to the monopoly on pro wrestling, like these two big juggernauts. Like, already people in conversations are just assuming that if you're not somewhere, like, you're just going to oscillate between AEW and WWE. There really are no alternative, or New Japan. New Japan's the third one, and I'm actually glad to see their American entry. But it's just going to be like these three big companies. And I know, Ashton, you were particularly concerned, like when we played Rocket League that one night, about what this would mean for the indie scene. And I definitely share your concerns, especially at this point in time. But we'll judge it when it comes out. That's really all I can say for right now, is just more speculative stuff. So there you go.
Yeah, thing is, like, what really with AEW, they are getting a lot of stuff right, but I'm also kind of skeptical about one big decision that they've been public about, and that's the decision to not have any writers.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Actually,
Cody came right out and said we're not going to have writers, and that was the pump the brakes moment for me. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, there is one situation where I could understand them not wanting to have writers to start. But if this situation doesn't would have been true, which I'm basically suggesting that it's not, then I don't think they would have come out and said we're not going to have writers. I think they would have just kept it mum, or maybe said like we're not planning on using writers or something like that. But Cody was very direct about saying we are not going to have writers. And the one situation where I could have maybe seen them wanting to hold off on writers at first would be if they wanted to wait and see with the Lucha Underground situation. And if Lucha Underground didn't pick up funding for a fifth season, trying to snatch up Roach and DeJoseph.
yeah,
Because that would have been like fucking dream team of wrestling brains and knowledge and brain power. If you had the Khan's money, Cody's passion for the business, Roach and DeJoseph writing the show, you are able to supply health insurance to your performers, you have this stacked roster. Like that's the kind of ingredients that could come together to legitimately create another WCW to me. But
yeah,
the fact that they just straight up said we're not going to have writers was like a major red light to me. That's like red flag. What are you doing? Like, is this going to just be PWG Southeast where you're just going to have matches on pay-per-views once a month? Or are you actually planning on getting a TV show and telling stories? And if you're going to tell stories, how the fuck are you going to do that without a writer?
exactly, dude. Exactly. For sure.
So that's my big apprehension towards AEW. But if they either A, decide to do away with that idea and just get writers, and maybe even if LU season 5 isn't a thing, go after Roach and DeJoseph, or if B, they figure out a way to put on legitimately compelling television week to week without writers, then my apprehensions are removed completely and I'm all in on All Elite.
Right.
So I'm extremely excited for AEW. And here's my thing. This might be kind of a shitty way of looking at it, but I've almost view AEW as a bubble. Like, get in on that shit now while you can. If you are an indie wrestler or an unhappy WWE worker, get in on AEW now in the early stages, because you are going to either make a lot of money and then it's going to blow up and you're not going to have to worry about any kind of consequences because then you can just go sign to another wrestling company anyway. Or you're going to get in the early stages, you're going to gain some like tenure, basically, like veteran status in the company, and it's going to be a great decision. So like it's win-win if you get in on the company right now, because like I said, I almost view it as like a bubble, because anytime you've got one guy providing all the funding who isn't like a wrestling guy through and through, you're gonna have to walk on eggshells there, because like Vince McMahon grew up in the wrestling business. He grew up learning how to be a wrestling promoter from his dad, and his dad before him. That is a family thing with them. It runs in their veins in the most literal sense possible. The Khans are football guys. They like, and the thing is, they're billionaires. So the however many millions of dollars they're putting into AEW seems like it's an extremely amazing amount of money to wrestling fans because of how much smaller game wrestling is in the grand scheme of things than pro football, than the NFL. But like, they could decide on a whim to be like, you know what? The XFL's dead. We don't really need to worry about Vince McMahon trying to compete with the NFL. And I don't know. I'm just not feeling this whole wrestling thing. Let's pull our funding, and AEW would be fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I really like that's why I'm saying get in on that shit now because you never know. It could be, you might be thinking like, oh, I'll let my WWE contract run out in 2021, and then I'll go to AEW and make that money. But by 2021, the cons could have already realized, like, oh, the wrestling business isn't as profitable as we hoped it would be. We're pulling our funding, and you'd be fucked.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I completely agree with everything. There's really nothing I can add. You said it all perfectly.
Yeah. So I have some apprehensions about AEW, but if all goes right, it's an absolute dream. Like it's huge for the wrestling business. That being said, let's move on. Up next, we've got 2 questions from Cliff. First up, if you could go back in time and change one booking decision, what would you change? Option A, Naito losing to Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 12. Option B, Marty losing the belt to Pentagon at Ultima Lucha. Option C, CM Punk losing to Triple H at Night of Champions 2011. Or option D, Booker T losing to Triple H at WrestleMania 19.
I would say option C, actually. I would have had Punk go over Triple H because here's the thing, just kind of working through it. Naito not beating Okada, like that was to me a grave misstep for New Japan. Like they really shouldn't have done that, and that was horrible. But they clearly have a path they're going on, and now Tanahashi's champ against it. Like a lot's happened that I don't even know how moot the decision would have been or how meaningful the decision would have been in hindsight. Booker T winning, it mattered because the whole storyline was fucking garbage. I wouldn't have even done it in the first place. But
yeah, that's where I'm at. Like if we can't change any other surrounding events, I would probably pick option D. But like given how open-ended the question is, I won't pick D because I would rather, like, if we're playing with time and we can go back and change a decision, I would literally just get in Vince's ear and be like, hey, man, maybe don't have Triple H sound like a fucking racist leading up to this match when you know he's going to win it anyway.
Yeah, like to me, dude, and here's the thing, because I don't want people to like come for my throat because I didn't pick Booker T, beating Triple H, because even if he won the title, I think the racist attitudes of that company run so deep that he'd never be positioned as the man anyway. Like, to be perfectly honest, if he beat Triple H in that one moment, I could see him losing it right back to Triple H at Backlash. Because they did it to fucking Randy Orton, won it at SummerSlam, lost it a month later. And he was in fucking Evolution, like he was on Triple H's teat, for fuck's sake. How do you think they would have treated Booker T? Like, I feel like it wouldn't have gone well. Meanwhile, why I chose C, Punk was a genuinely hot commodity that was getting like that mainstream appeal at the time and creating all this buzz. And yet Triple H, because he was still in his wrestling phase where the ego was just so fucking huge, he just had to go over. And I really do not understand that. Like, don't put the story in place if you're not going to protect your guy. And CM Punk should have been a lot more protected because he did have that big appeal. He did have that mainstream appeal with people talking about him. And when you get that kind of lightning in a bottle, that to me is so crucial if we're looking at things from a purely business perspective and perpetuating and moving the wrestling industry forward. Booker T was a moral atrocity to me, like him not winning. Naito not beating Okada, that's just business. Like, it sucks, and I think Naito was more over. I'd say he's closer to like the Punk situation than anything else. I even forget, what was D again? What was D the Booker? I know I'm missing like one option that I'm not thinking about here.
B was Marty losing the title.
Well, with the state of Lucha Underground, it's kind of a moot point right now. And even
and not only that, but whoever held that title was going to lose it to Jake Strong anyway. So what difference does it make?
Exactly. So yeah, to me, C,
that's like option B is like far and away the easiest. No, I'm good. We don't have to change that on this list.
Yeah. And
I would say that Punk losing to Triple H would be my first option as well. And then Naito would be the second option. And again, like if I could go back and just have Triple H not say to Booker T, people like you don't win titles, don't win world titles or whatever he said, I would change that before I would change the result of the match,
Yeah. No, I
like you said, it's more about perception. And like WWE obviously didn't see Booker T as a main event guy. So the fact that he didn't win the title there wasn't the big deal. The big deal was Triple H said that shit and didn't get a comeuppance.
Yeah, exactly. Like him not winning the world title to me was a snapshot of a much bigger picture that we're not like really, well, at least it's question, with its parameters, we can't really examine here. So for me, C, absolutely Punk just going over Triple H. So
yeah, and really like that's like I feel like that was like the biggest sort of fuck you of the group too, because like I said, Marty losing to Pentagon was, even if you and I didn't like that, the crowd was still so hot for Pentagon. And like Booker T losing to Triple H, like the biggest slaps in the face there were A, the promo, and B, how long it took for Triple H to cover him, right? But like the decision to have Triple H beat Booker T in and of itself wouldn't have been a problem had it not been for that promo. And then like Naito losing to Okada wouldn't have had to be a slap in the face if they would have used it to build into a longer term story that saw Naito getting a redemption, which we still might see because Ghetto plans booking 2 years in advance, and we're barely halfway into the 2 years that began with Wrestle Kingdom 12. So maybe it will come full circle, and maybe Naito does win the title again between now and Wrestle Kingdom 14 or at Wrestle Kingdom 14. We don't know, but for now, it feels like a slap in the face. But the real slap in the face was hottest act in the company, CM Punk, bringing Triple H out of retirement only to lose to him clean.
Yeah, that was some bullshit. That's why, honestly, in hindsight, it was like a really easy choice for me.
Yeah, exactly. All right, second question and final question, actually, from Cliff. For the year 2020, which of these would you choose to see happen? It is choice A. Kairi Sane beats a heel Sasha Banks to win the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania 36, then drops it at SummerSlam to Io Shirai, who then drops it to Bianca at Survivor Series. That's a lot of title changes, man. B. John Morrison returns at the Royal Rumble without Taya, wins the Royal Rumble, but then loses his title match against AJ Styles at WrestleMania and doesn't touch the world title scene again. Option C. Andrade holds the WWE title for almost the entire calendar year and creates his own Los Ingobernables type faction, losing the title at Survivor Series to, he said Hideo in this, so a little bit of an outdated question, but just go with it. And then option D, John Morrison holds the WWE title for almost the entire calendar year with Taya at his side, but loses the title at Survivor Series to Jinder Mahal.
I think, Cliff, you pretty much made the decision for us. To me, it's C. Because here's the reason why I don't pick A. I never wanted Kairi to become Raw Women's Champion. I'll let her take whatever gold that she's on. But Ashton can tell you, I want her first main roster Women's Championship to be the SmackDown Women's Championship because, as I say, it's blue like the ocean she's sailed as a pirate. And I think it's perfect with the whole aesthetic. That's kind of my headcanon there. And with C, it's like you don't have it. With A, you don't have anything unfavorable because I like Sasha and I like Bianca, but I agree with Ashton. It's I like Bianca and I like Io. But I agree with Ashton. It's kind of a little hot potato there. With Andrade, you have him having a near calendar reign and starting his own LIJ
Los Ingobernables.
Los Ingobernables WWE, and then dropping it to fucking Hideo, who I also love. So I don't lose. So yeah, C, give me that. C as well for that one.
Yeah. I did ask Cliff in chat who we should swap Hideo out for, but he hasn't answered. He hasn't replied.
If you were to say Kona Reeves,
well, obviously, you know what though? I think that the year-long Andrade reign with an LI faction would probably make it worthwhile.
I agree.
And Kona Reeves is absolute bottom feeder, worst case scenario. And even that, I feel like I could tolerate if it meant that we got a year-long Andrade title reign with a Los Ingobernables faction with him in WWE. I might not like Kona Reeves and think he's very untalented. Oh, and he just said, swap Hideo out for Sami Zayn. Fuck yeah. That's the easiest decision ever.
Cliff, brother, your Q&A game is weak, bro. You need to... See, thanks for the layup, Mark. Christ, walked right into that one. I know, Cliff. I'm grateful to you. I mean, so many people give fucking brain teasers for questions where I spent 15 minutes. I mean, God, easiest decision I ever made. Option C in this bitch, motherfucker. God damn.
You would basically have to combine options B and D for John to choose that over option C, which would be John Morrison returns at the Royal Rumble with Taya, wins it, wins the world title, holds it for a year, and then drops it to Jinder Mahal. That would be the only way that you would get on John to pick that option over Andrade.
Yeah, like Andrade is fucking king, and I just have this sneaking feeling that I don't know what Johnny's gonna do if Lucha Underground doesn't become a thing. Like if he'll go straight for WWE run. Honestly, with him, dude, I could even see AEW. Oddly enough,
it's so weird because I feel like the two John Morrison options are like Cliff playing Corrupt-A-Wish, and then the other two options are like all good.
Dude, we're all dragging him in chat for his Q&A game. God, I love when I start a bullying cycle for someone else. Yeah, I get.
No, now he's saying Riddick Moss. No,
you can't keep changing your question. You get one question. Unless
we already said Kona Reeves would be worth it. Let's not put Andrade's health at risk by putting him against Riddick Green.
Yeah, let's move on to the next question, dude. We won this one.
All right. 5 questions from Abel.
Oh my God.
I always do a pause after I say Abel because I know you want to mark out for him.
I love you so much.
First question from him, though. Who will be the next black wrestler to win the Men's Royal Rumble?
Velveteen Dream, hopefully. What about you, Ashton?
I think that there are 2. Let me ask you. No. Dream is a really good choice. I'm going to say Keith Lee, though.
Yeah, Keith Lee was the other person I think I was thinking about, but yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see, but definitely one of those two. It has to be one of those two, I think.
Actually, no. I take that back. Abel said black wrestler, not black male wrestler. Oh, he said Men's Royal Rumble, though. Never mind. I was going to say Ember Moon, but he did specifically say Men's Royal Rumble. So my attempt to be clever there got through.
You just reminded me of Bender Rouge Drama, that clip I told you about a few nights ago. I think I have an idea so ingeniously clever that I bam $500 in time served. Stupid anti-pimping laws. Just thinking like, God damn it, he mentioned Men's Royal Rumble. But
all right. Second question from Abel. What does AEW need to do to succeed and not become another TNA?
I think what they need to do, better creative decisions, which I know is very broad. One big thing is avoid over-reliance on legends. That's one thing I think TNA in its like mid-2000s years and stuff had a huge problem with. And again, I stress this with any new startup. Don't be in a rush to compete with WWE. Be smart about your time slot. Be smart about where you put your money. Build something. I'm a big like, build it and it will grow, or, like they will come, or things like that. Like, just trust that people are going to gravitate to your business for its own reasons, rather than just saying, oh, we're competing with WWE, and then people want to latch on to the underdog and fight against something. Like, don't let that be your sole appeal. Be organic. Be something unique. Like Lucha Underground. I never once got the underdog vibe from Lucha Underground because they never once really positioned themselves as competing against WWE. They offered a unique aesthetic. They brought Lucha Libre like to the US in like a big way. That's how you stand out. If AEW is just like, oh, well, we would like to think that those other companies don't do business as well. Like, I think they're going to be DOA. Not AEW, DOA, like dead on arrival. You need to take time to cultivate a fucking identity. And then when people rally around that identity for its own sake, and not because, oh, look at all the heat they're giving the E, then you go and you make a run for it. When TNA did that whole head-to-head war, acting like they're fucking WCW 2.0, yeah, maybe on its deathbed. Like, be realistic, even though the money that you have could make you feel comfortable in idealism. Stay fucking grounded. That's the biggest thing I can stress to them. Don't get too big. And as I've been saying throughout this Q&A with other questions, don't fucking walk before you haven't even learned what it means to crawl. Just do your due diligence. That's my biggest thing. You have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would say to remember variety, because I feel like one of the biggest problems that ailed TNA in their formative years was too much Jeff Jarrett. Period. Like, I don't even need to add anything. They just overly used Jeff Jarrett because he was one of the founders of the company.
Yes.
Don't overly use Cody. Don't overly use Kenny. Don't overly use the Bucks. Don't overly use anyone. Make sure to maintain a variety of performers, a variety of matches. Don't pull a WWE and have the same fucking match 4 months in a row. Don't pull an early TNA and have the same guy hold a title for fucking 30 of the first 36 months of your company's existence. Now, obviously, I'm exaggerating as far as Jeff Jarrett goes, but you get the idea. Really, just try and make sure that you have your finger on the pulse of when the fans are getting sick of something and when to pull the trigger to make like a title change or back off of a feud or something along those lines, and you'll be fine, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I completely agree with you.
All right. Third question from Abel. If Kenny Omega isn't leaving New Japan, if Kenny Omega wasn't leaving New Japan, do you think he would have remained IWGP champion? And if so, who would his next feud have been with?
I think he would have remained champion. I honestly feel like we'd be getting the same feud that we're getting now because Kenny was one of the first people that Jay White betrayed. And I think that would be the narrative rather than just the history that Jay White and Tanahashi share. So
Yeah.
I think
they actually, New Japan is, I feel like New Japan, whose writing team consists of Ghetto with maybe occasional input from Jado, does a better job of doing what I expect wrestling writers to do than WWE's team of however many dozens of writers they have. Because to me, a wrestling writer should have an idea, and then they should have an idea for if that idea doesn't work, and then they should have another idea for if that, like, they should literally create a fucking spider web of ideas where maybe we only get to see one branch of the spider web play out all the way, but it'll be a comprehensive ass line on that web that you have fully, fleshed out and you know where you're going. Because if you're just like, okay, we're going to do this, and then when something about the original plan doesn't work and it literally throws all of your other plans in disarray, like with WWE, and we're just like, oh, we're planning on this, and then someone gets injured. Oh God, what do we do now? Turn 3 different people face, turn those 2 people different heel. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they go into panic mode and like crack under the slightest pressure.
Whereas with Ghetto, he has done such a great job of sewing the fabric of New Japan's sort of historical lore into the minds of his fans that any 2 guys have got history with each other. So even if you're planning on doing Goto versus Okada for something in Chaos and Goto gets hurt, well, now you can just put Okada against somebody else that branches off of Goto, that's relevant to Goto, maybe Ishii, that would be along the same lines, that would serve a similar storytelling purpose, would put on just as good a matches, and you don't skip a beat. It's like New Japan does the smart thing. They plan for things to not go to plan. And that's the biggest problem that WWE has. And that is, I think, why WWE is so consistently such a mess creatively, whereas New Japan has so clearly got their shit together creatively. And the reason that I'm talking about this is because I completely agree with you, dude. I think that New Japan set itself up knowing that there was a chance that Kenny could leave, but it wasn't necessarily guaranteed that he would leave. They wanted to set themselves up in a situation where the next contender for the championship could be somebody that has beef with both potential champions. And they did a perfect job with that with Switchblade.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually an excellent point when you phrase it that succinctly. Wow. All right. Next question.
4th question from Abel. Will pro wrestling be a part of our culture forever? Yes.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think it's one of the, and I've said it before on commentaries, I think it's one of the last forms of like really mainstream theater. And I think it'll always have a place in Western culture. So yeah, absolutely.
All right. Fifth and final question from Abel. Why do you love pro wrestling?
Just everything, man. Like I love the passion of the performers. Like I actually watched one of those WWE PC videos, which by the way, I should unsubscribe to them now, thanks to you like showing me so many like great stuff just offhandedly. And Aleister
Who's
Black
this that you're subscribed to? Oh, PC.
WWE Performance Center, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Aleister Black talking about like why he loves wrestling and what it meant to him during the Royal Rumble. Like I fucking love that shit.
I loved his little like speaking point there when he was just like, listen to that. You feel that? That is real. I love Alistair so much.
Yeah, I love the passion. I love the matches. I love
He's
the
such a goofy, weird little hybrid between CM Punk and The Undertaker. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love all of it. There is no like one thing. Like I know my earliest wrestling exposure was seeing Kurt Angle hose everybody down with a fucking milk truck. Like, it's amazing. Wrestling, and I mean this in both the best and worst possible way, depending on what segment you get, and really just your overall perspective consuming said segment. Wrestling is the most ludicrous thing on earth. And yet I think when reality can just be so harsh or so cold or whatever, sometimes ludicrous is a good thing. Sometimes I do want to see a ring full of people get hosed down in milk. God, context really matters. And I love it. I love everything about it. It's amazing. So
I think that my love for pro wrestling kind of stems from two different loves of mine colliding at one point. And those two different loves are my love for storytelling, which, whether it's movies or even back in the day when I was in high school and stuff, I was always a sucker for a good story. And like I said, when I was in high school, I read the Harry Potter books front to back. And I think I was like the first person in my family to read a book cover to cover. And I did that 7 times with the 7 Harry Potter books. And like, and those weren't the only books that I read cover to cover, but that's just the quickest example I can think of. And like, I've always been a huge fan of shows, or not just shows, but stories that are able to call back on their own history. Like if you would just see the 3 members of the Shield staring at each other and doing the fist thing with no context, you wouldn't really understand what made that special. But when you find out the history between those 3 guys, that's goosebump inducing,
yeah, absolutely.
And then I think that the other love of mine that kind of contributes to my love of wrestling is that I love kind of trying to pick out undervalued things, whether it's people or traits or whatever, and latch onto those and ride it out to completion and see how my sort of investment worked out. And with wrestling, I love being able to pick somebody out very early on in their career that I feel connects with me personally to a high degree, and follow them throughout their career to see where they end up and see how well they succeed and how far they get,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's the combination of those two things that I love so much about wrestling, because it's like, not only do you get the storytelling, which is, it's got its ups and downs. WWE, like main roster, it's a little flimsier. It still has its great moments, but there are also a lot of bad moments. NXT, it's excellent. New Japan, it's exceptional. Lucha Underground, it's exceptional. And that's all of the wrestling that we really watch. So the storytelling elements are there. And especially like being able to pick a performer that nobody's talking about, that I see something special in. It almost comes back to like when Paul Heyman talks about how he could just tell when he saw Steve Austin run the ropes that this guy was going to be something special. I love that feeling of seeing something in someone that nobody else sees or that very few other people see and really latching onto that and seeing like what they end up doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. That was beautifully said. For
Because
sure.
like I think that the perfect example for me at least is Tommaso Ciampa. Because like Tommaso Ciampa is a guy who has always been a pretty solid worker. And when I say has always been, I mean pretty much ever since he broke into like the mainstream of wrestling. He's always been a solid worker. I don't think many people would call that into question. But in the summer of 2010, during the 3 months that Daniel Bryan had been quote unquote fired from the WWE, he was taking indie bookings, and one of them was against Ciampa. And Ciampa put up a promo on YouTube that he cut on Bryan, like basically demanding, like, I don't want to face Daniel Bryan. I want the American Dragon. And I was so enthralled by that promo that I instantly became a Tommaso Ciampa fan. And like, then he went to Ring of Honor and they did fucking nothing with him. And they did nothing with him so much that it even made me start to question, like, am I the only person that sees anything in this guy? Like, am I just wrong about him? Like, do the things that I see about him that I think are great, just most people don't think that it's anything special? And then he goes to NXT and look what he is now. It's like, okay, that's like the perfect example of wanting to like get in on it early and then having it pay off in the long term.
Absolutely.
So those are the big two elements to me: the storytelling and the like the investment in individuals from early on in their careers and seeing where they end up. Those are the two elements to me that I love wrestling for. So, up next, we have 3 questions from Iconic Player 1. First up, under which U.S. presidents would you want to serve as vice president under?
Given my political beliefs, I am going to indulge you on this, Iconic, because you're a good dude. I did pick one. If I have to pick, John F. Kennedy. So
I was literally gonna, dude, completely different reason, but I was gonna say, well, I mean, since we're doing this as hindsight, can I just say JFK so I can become president for a couple of years?
Well, dude, I pretty much said the same thing as you, but a bit wordier. I said I was going to say JFK, so I could have kept some of his ideological beliefs, thrown others away, and gone even further left with others. So, like, yeah, I would have kept his overall vision, at least the parts that I definitely felt like were agreeable and would make a better global situation, not just national situation. And even things that I feel like you could have gone further left about, I probably would have. And to be honest, I wonder if like back then it probably would have been easier to get it than today, where it's just political animosity is so fucking steep. So yeah, JFK, simply because I feel like some of his ideological commitments could have totally changed the landscape that he never got to see through fruition. And, you know, why not? So there you go. JFK was my answer there.
Yeah. So, I have kind of a weird answer that involves assassination. So I would choose Ronald Reagan and I would hire someone to assassinate him so that I could become president and completely undo all of the tax cuts that he did.
God damn. All right. I mean, I love it. I fucking love it. I mean,
he ended up dying in pain anyway, so I'd be doing him a favor, right?
I mean, yeah. Yeah. You can look at it
because here's the thing. Like Reagan reduced the top marginal tax rate from 70% at the beginning of his what's the word for with the president term, I guess, is at the beginning of his first term it was 70%. And by the end of his second term it was below 30, it was like 28%. And it hasn't managed to find its way above like I think 37 or 38% since then. So like here's the thing, maybe it's not, oh, we need to keep the top marginal income tax really low. Maybe it's more like we don't want to rock the boat too much and change it too significantly. So I would revert all the shit that he did and hope that the idea of, oh, let's not rock the boat too much would continue until like further generations down the line, because he seriously fucked the country over hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was pretty much exclusively him. And dude, here's the really funny thing too. I'm going to Google this just so that I don't get my facts wrong. Do you know what years JFK was president off the back of your head? Yeah.
I do not.
I'm actually right about this. JFK was president 61 through 63. His vice president, though, which is where I'm kind of getting at, which is an example of like a vice president kind of choosing to go in a direction opposite to what their president would have wanted to go after an assassination. So JFK's vice president, I gotta find it. Vice was Lyndon B. Johnson. That's who it was. Lyndon B. Johnson. And when Lyndon B. Johnson became president, he lowered the top marginal tax rate from 91% down to 70%. So he was the next most significant cutter of the top marginal tax rate other than Reagan. And he did it after basically being handed the presidency because of an assassination. So I would do the exact same thing, except I would do it the other way around. I would take the tax cuts that Reagan did and I would reverse that shit. And I you know what? Just because it would bring it back to where it probably should have been, I would probably not even just bring it back to 70%. I'd probably bring it all the way back up to the 91% that it was in the 50s and 60s, or in the 40s and 50s and 60s before Lyndon B. Johnson and then, more importantly, Ronald Reagan got their hands on it. So that would be my decision, would be to bring back the tax rates and kind of reestablish that shit to kind of, put a halt to the ridiculous amount of wealth inequality in the world.
There you go, man. All right, next.
All right. Second question from Iconic Player One. You start and by the way, can I just say, I apologize for cutting myself off here, but I absolutely love that the main character in Deadly Class wants to kill Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
I would hire you, kid, as the vice president. All right. Next question from Iconic Player One, though. You start a rock band. Which wrestlers are band members, and what's the name?
Johnny Mundo, Andrade, Tyler Bate, and Kyrie as the singer, and we're the Paragon Pirates.
Oh my God. You son of a bitch. You prepared for this. God.
Right, I did.
I didn't prepare for shit.
I think
I look like an asshole because I'm the one holding us up because you have all these answers prepared and I've got to improvise.
I think we'd go double platinum quite a few times if I do say so myself.
Kyrie's
got legit.
With Mundo, and then I know
Andrade, Tyler Bate. Kyrie is the singer.
Bate. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I love this name that you came up with so much, I'm gonna have a unique band. I'm gonna have Suzuki on bass guitar because you just know that he's a soulful son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I am going to have Ricky Banderas or El Banderas or Mil Muertes, whatever you want to call him. I'm going to have him on drums. I am going to have Dr. Wagner Jr. on electric guitar. No. And I am going to have Chris Jericho on vocals. And the name of my band is literally going to be Old Fucks Making Big Bucks.
Oh my God, yes, it lives.
and yeah, that's perfect. So the third question from Iconic Player One, who killed Hannibal?
Will Graham or Clarice Starling, probably. That's probably not what you meant, but well, there it is.
Yeah, I have no clue what this is in reference to, so I'm just gonna act like your answer was suitable and just move on.
Doesn't really work when you out the plan there, bud, but okay.
5 questions from Mark Schoeneman. First up, who should face Brian at Mania?
Bray Wyatt or John Cena? I'm sticking with it, baby. I'm sticking with the Bray Wyatt prediction. So Bray Wyatt.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna say after oh God, this is really difficult. You know what? Now that he no longer has the US title, I am gonna say a newly returned to face Nakamura is my answer.
Interesting. Okay.
Dude, he came to the WWE to face Brian. And like, I need that match in my life.
Yeah, that's so true. He can't.
'Cause that's the thing is like Nakamura is a pretty mediocre guy in the ring when he's phoning it in, but when he's motivated, he's one of the best in the world. And what better to motivate him than to put him against the guy that he's literally in the company to face?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you.
Newly returned to babyface Nakamura is my answer. Second question from Mark: when will they give up on Mojo Rawley? My answer: not soon enough.
Yeah, unfortunately, probably never, given that they're not bleeding for money at the moment with the TV deals and everything, and he's getting a renewed push as seen last Monday on Raw. So I agree with Ashton's answer, but also never, just to rip the knife clean out of the back. Next.
All right, third question. Will Harper finally get a good singles run when he returns? Well, considering Cesaro still hasn't, I kind of fucking doubt it.
Yeah, no. I think WWE sees him as purely a tag guy. So
I kind of group those guys in together because they're both freakishly gifted athletes and legitimately great wrestlers who just don't get chances.
Yeah. Next.
All right, next up. Fourth question from Mark. For Johnny Scumbag, cut a promo on the last thing that made you angry. Oh, yes! I know what this was.
Do you? Wait, before...
Yeah, it was Kushida.
Oh, yeah. Shit, I guess that's true, because I already had in mind, like, something else that I was going to rant about that I really wanted to rant about, but
something more or less recent than Kushida.
Still... not as recent, so I guess by default less. So yeah.
But I mean, if you would rather rant about that other thing, you did kind of already rant about Kushida.
I did. So yeah, I feel like trying to rant about it again would be forced on the spot. No, I have to rant, especially because it's Johnny Scumbag. I don't have to be nice to people, which feels amazing. I have to rant about these fucking people like praising Nancy Pelosi and establishment Democrats for like ending the fucking government shutdown. Like, I even saw headlines: Nancy Pelosi dog walk Trump. Of course, you fucking establishment old fucks would ruin something good, because that was what Cardi
did,
Tommy Lahren. Like,
is it some serious Bader Meinhof shit, or has the term dog walked really just recently started hitting the mainstream? Because I've heard that phrase, and like, I feel like the first time that I heard that phrase was in like 2017, but I never saw mainstream heads using that phrase until like just within the last month.
Yeah, dude, it's so fucking bad when these fucking old people do it. It's the same way like Kamala Harris, which, because you know, Ashton, the people that I run with politically and shit, I've been seeing video apparently for her to try and get the black vote, because I guarantee you some white political strategist told her to do this. She did a video where she does Wakanda forever, and a part of my soul fucking died. Like,
dude, I also I feel like Kamala Harris is a great example of why being liberal is not mutually inclusive to being compassionate.
Yeah, exactly.
Because as long as you are not wearing the red, white, and blue stars and stripes, Kamala Harris, I've got to remember that that's how her name is pronounced, because that's how she says her own name is Kamala Harris.
Kamala, okay.
If you're not wearing that red, white, and blue stars and stripes, though, she doesn't give a fuck about you.
No, and to keep my rant on point, though, to who I mentioned originally, like, don't give that fucking reptilian bitch any fucking credit like dog walk Trump. Get the fuck out of here. The people that ended the government shutdown was the fucking air flight attendant union, because unions fucking work. All right? The people that produce the labor and keep everything running, if they just suddenly decide to stop, they're all fucked. But of course, the establishment fucking politicians, I don't care what side you're on, they're going to take credit because they're going to politicize everything if it means getting votes. I mean, these are the same people, right or wrong, that, you know, like a fucking tragedy can happen, and left or right in their own ways, they politicize it. It's fucking insane. There is no compassion, only calculation. There is no empathy, only strategy. It's the most sickening fucking thing. And of course, something that hardworking people did that have to keep bread in their mouths and light on over their heads, they have to, you know, get shit on again, and they don't get the credit they deserve. But the worst fucking thing isn't even like media and everything, like giving Pelosi the credit. No, she dog walked Trump. No, first of all, it's You choose any hero simply when they're not Trump. And don't get me wrong, Trump is a pile of shit. I will not have my words taken out of context. That is not a pro-Trump sentiment. That is, you guys are so desperate to take any shot at him. You're taking quantity over quality, and that a girl. No, that's not happening. And most importantly, the fucking everyday person, they buy into it. And that's the most pernicious thing, because the cycle is never going to be fucking broken, and we're never going to and we're never going to do anything differently, because this fucking shit, oh yeah, Nancy's great. Oh yeah, Dems 2020. Don't you get that you're all getting fucking worked? Like honestly, Wisecrack put out a video like how pro wrestling is the best thing to understand our reality. And if that's true, everybody's getting fucking worked. And we've been getting fucking worked for decades. And we'll continue to get...
I gotta watch that Wisecrack video.
Dude, it was so good. And it's just so stupid. Because now you're going to support establishment politicians that, let's be quite frank, they don't need your support. They don't, because they already get support from corporations and everything else. And they certainly get support from the Supreme Court thanks to Citizens fucking United. Right? But you know who really could use your support? Your local fucking unions. The people that make this shit fucking possible. Support people who strike. Support your unions. Chances are they have a great fucking reason that isn't going to be demonized by fucking Fox News or completely diverted by fucking liberal media. Listen to fucking people, to your everyday experiences. I was so proud of that flight attendant union. And I even tweeted after, I said, this is a reason why I will never, ever have my faith diminish in the power of unions, leftist organizing, worker organizing, however you want to phrase it, just organizing, period, for a political cause is one of the most powerful things you can do. And you're going to fucking tell me you give that win to some decrepit bitch that I don't know what fucking things she's done in all the years she's been in a position of power, and yet everybody laps it up like a fucking cat to milk. And honestly, it's gotten me to the point, because I've been going through some changes lately, really thinking about my fucking life and how I respond, because I know my therapist tells me, John, you respond to like you're in charge of your emotions and how you respond to things. I choose to respond angry, because you know what? We deserve to fucking lose. If we're going to keep making these mistakes, we deserve to fucking lose. And it sucks. It sucks that the people that are actually well-meaning and organizing and really go out there, they're going to lose with the ship. And I wish there was another way. But if this is really where it's fucking come to, that you're not even going to pay mind to your union and you're just going to, again, favor the establishment, except they just wear a different stripes than you do, we're fucked. We're fucked, and honestly, we deserve to be fucked, because how does this keep happening? It's really a mind fuck, and it pisses me the fuck off. That's why I'm glad I didn't do the Kushida rant, because I already hate that motherfucker. But as a person, I hate this shit. I hate that working class people move the world, and yet they're never fucking seen, ever. It's always the political class. It's always, for better or worse, the fucking political class, and it's disgusting to me. It is absolutely abhorrent, and fuck everybody, including me at times. Hell, I'm not perfect. When I first discovered Elizabeth Warren, I liked her. Then the moment she sold Bernie, I'm like, wow, you are no fucking better than anybody else. And Ashton can tell you guys, I am not a Bernie bro by any fucking means. Anytime me and Ashton talked about him, I never really was fully on board. I was on board with that from a purely pragmatic standpoint, because I honestly really don't care for him either. But, pragmatics win the day. I want to think about working class people. I want to think about people that when I'm in a fucking New England winter, but I'm at least fortunate to have a fucking space heater, there are people actually dying in the fucking cold. And I know I'm one man and there's only so much any one person can do, but that's why I say organize. You know what I told my grandmother the other night? I told her that if I wasn't disabled and I could navigate society better, I would be one of those protest kids. The fucking protesting all the fucking time. I protest online, amplifying Twitter threads and stuff. Not much I can do, unfortunately, given accessibility and this and that. But fuck yeah, anytime I see a protest, it's fucking great. It's fucking amazing. I feel like that's what matters. And yet, no, that's never going to be given visibility. And if it is, it's always going to be pejorative. Oh, can you imagine those dastardly Antifa people? You mean the anti-fascists, which should be the default position. And we should all be Antifa. And Nazis are still bad. Am I in the fucking 30s? But no, let's just celebrate how an establishment Democrat dog-walked a president that's still going to kill us all anyway. Great job. Great fucking job. You deserve to fucking lose. I don't fucking care anymore. There's your fucking rant. The optimism has just been beaten out of me. Because, that's a fucking joke. That's a fucking joke. Next.
Fifth and final question from Mark. With Ambrose and Hideo leaving, do you think that we will see any more releases soon?
Absolutely. And I even have like 3 people in mind. I would say Nakamura and just the club with like Gallows and Anderson. I don't think Finn will leave because Finn's like in a good place right now with the company, but Nakamura and Gallows and Anderson especially, I could definitely see those guys, kind of hightailing it out of there. What about you?
Um, thanks to fucking Meltzer's basically programming, I want to say Gable, but I feel like he's probably happy with his spot and he kind of understands that he's probably going to be better off in WWE than he would be in AEW. Let's see. Maybe. No, not even then. I don't know. I really don't. I wouldn't have even guessed Dean Ambrose. I mean, Hideo made sense to me, but I wouldn't have guessed Dean Ambrose. So I just tend not. Maybe Cesaro. Maybe Harper. We already kind of brought him up. Those are the 2 big ones. Maybe even Sheamus. Like I could see all 3 of those guys kind of hightailing it for AEW. It'd be interesting. That's about it, though. That's about all I can. Like I really wanted to come up with a woman, but just because like AEW has said like equal pay and health insurance and all that stuff, but I'm having a hard time thinking of any women in WWE who don't like believe in their own ability to make it to the top and like make those big bucks and have like a higher ceiling in WWE than they would in AEW. But then also like a woman who would feel like she would be able to make more in AEW. You know what I mean? Like I'm having a hard time finding someone that fits all the criteria that you would expect for someone to go to AEW.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely
like when we're talking about like Sasha and Ember and Bailey, those are all women that are like they're like the Cesaros and Harpers of their respective divisions because they're like these uber talented in ring workers who just don't get credit because whatever reason that would probably be better off from like a I'm fucking blanking on a word here. Presentation standpoint in AEW than they are in WWE, but I don't think they would be better off financially or as far as like the size of the stage that they'd be on or anything like that. So I don't think that they would leave. And plus, like those, like they're all also like women that really genuinely believe in their own ability, and rightfully so. But I think that their belief in their own ability also leads to them genuinely believing that they will make it to the top of WWE and they will get their due at some point, even if it isn't for another year or 2 or 3 or 4 or however long it takes. Like those 3 especially, Bailey, Sasha, Ember, and I'll even toss like Ruby in there too, very much strike me as the types that are very confident in their own ability and their own ability to make it to where they want to be too,
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I have a hard time believing that any of them would want to be released. And then like once you get past them, like who would even work in AEW,
Right.
Because like when I'm thinking like who in WWE would go to AEW, I'm thinking like who are the really good workers that aren't maybe as great at promos, but WWE undervalues them, and like that's about it. It's mostly just like Ember in that cat and Bailey in that category, because even like Sasha gets her due, and Ruby is just great at everything, but for some reason doesn't get shit. Maybe Ruby. Maybe Ruby, maybe Ruby, but I still doubt that just because WWE has become like a home for her. Like that's her family now.
Yeah.
I have a hard time coming up with this kind of stuff. So my most likely answers are Cesaro, Sheamus, and Harper.
All right, man. Next set of questions.
We've got 3 from James. Normally one of the first, this time one of the last. First up, if you could go back and experience one moment from last year all over again, what would it be and why?
Easily the conference I had in Colorado. I mean, to get to present my own ideas to a room of people that I regard as my peers was amazing. I met so many wonderful and genuine people there, and it was just exhilarating, to get a bit more personal. as a disabled guy that just never thought he'd be able to travel anywhere like outside of state, especially like by himself. I never thought that was possible for me. And it was probably one of the biggest life changing experiences of my life. The only thing I'd do different would be getting high on that trip. And even then, I can't fully regret it because you guys seem to love my glass of water story. So I can't even fully like bemoan that event. But it was the best time of my life. I even I think I tweeted afterwards like the hardest part really was coming home in a way because it's like it's I said it's weird experiencing the life that you want and then having to come back to the life that you have. But it was just such an incredible experience. Like I want to do it again and I will hopefully do it again. And it was just the best time. So that is easy. It's not even close. What about
Shit, I didn't experience any fucking life-changing events last year. Jesus,
you?
I don't fucking know. I like the first thing is like Brian winning the title off of AJ or something.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Like, that's like I maybe like the final 5 minutes of Ultima Lucha 4.
Yeah, dude. Experiencing stuff like that for the first time all over again, just amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I guess that would be the answer because my life is boring as fuck.
Next question.
Second question from James. A billionaire just gave you a blank check to do anything you want with for an entire year. Design your dream year.
I'll go first on this because I've figured out that I would want to divide it neatly. 6 months with family and friends, and then the other 6 months with my crush. So with family and friends, like we'd go on vacations. Really, when I think of friends, I do primarily think of Ashton. Honestly, I'd want us to go to like all the wrestling shows together, like Lucha Underground, fucking New Japan, like all that shit. Assuming Lucha Underground is still in production, even if they weren't, honestly, as masochistic as it may sound, I'd probably still want to go to California just to check out, like, yeah, that's where the tapings were, kind of thing. Just kind of talk to some of the people behind it. Maybe see if we can get them to do one more run with the wrestling business and stuff like that. And then just with my crowd, just doing like all the philosophy for the remaining 6 months of the year, going to conferences together. I know she loves like Greek because she's like really big in ancient philosophy. So I'd want to take her to Greece and just kind of do that whole thing and just really enjoy each other and just do all the fucking philosophy possible. So yeah, I mean, with 12 months in a year, I divided it perfectly. Friends and family get the first 6 months, and then just me and my crush get the other 6 months, to really bond and know each other and just see the fucking philosophy side of the world and maybe even other places that you'd want to see that aren't really necessarily tethered to anything philosophical. I think it would be absolutely amazing. And hell, if I had any leftover time for just me, I'd love to just kind of tour Europe for a little bit. I know like Greece is like a part of that, but I mean just more broadly because like France, especially like given that the Enlightenment happened there and their big revolution, which is one of my favorite political moments ever. I'd love to just tour that. I'd buy a library. Not even kidding. Like I'd buy a separate room just to serve as a library and just buy all the books and have a good place for all the books I already have. And yeah, I mean, as a bibliophile, I got to do that. And yeah, it would just be a lot of fun getting to do wrestling events with you, getting to do traveling with her, and just family at large. And yeah, just a lot of good shit for one whole fucking year. It'd be beautiful. It'd be really beautiful. So what about you? You got a billionaire benefactor. What are you doing?
I've really like bounced ideas around in my head. Like the one idea that I had was I'm going to hire a financial advisor and use his advice to figure out how I can fund a bunch of more seasons of Lucha Underground
Yeah.
and get it on a better network, maybe even Netflix, however much that costs, and that kind of shit. And then another idea I had was when you brought up the idea of seeing wrestling shows, like, yes, you and I are going to see the next Wrestle Kingdom. That's a big one. And
Yes.
Mania weekend too, and probably Rumble weekend too. And we're also going to Vegas. And that was another thought that crossed my mind was like, well, if they're giving me $1 billion and I have to give $1 billion back, can I maybe, you know, or if they're no, they're just giving me $1 billion to do with what I want. But like it says to design your dream year. So I don't know. Cause like it's like a blank check. So I'm like, I'm like trying to figure out ways to make it last longer. Like I would want to save a lot of it because
saving, absolutely,
yeah, because like $1 billion is just a lot of money, and I don't know how to spend that much money in 1 year. So I would just want to save all of it so that I could just, live a happy, content life for the rest of my life, because that would be really nice to not have to worry about money ever again. Um, but yeah, like as far as like actual like expenditures, as far as like really spending money to go do stuff, it would mostly be like going to wrestling shows with you. I would definitely want to go to Vegas because that's been like a dream of mine for probably over a decade at this point. Um, I would want to just like not necessarily because you're like planning 6 months. I'm like, do you know how long 6 months is? I'm just like, I would probably like if I had $1 billion, I would literally just spend the year just traveling place to place. Like I would literally go as far northeast in the US, or not even fuck the US. I would go, and well, no, because like no, yeah, I would go as far northeast as I could in the continent of North America without going into like fuck you polar bear territory. And I would just like travel down the East Coast, and then I would go like through like the middle of the country over to the West Coast. I would probably go through Texas because that's the most interesting state in the middle of the country. Let's be real.
right.
So I would go through like the Bible Belt basically, which might suck to a degree, but it'd be interesting because at the very least, like Bible Belt is like colorful people. It's like characters, like
Yeah, exactly.
you're bound to run into a few racists here and there, but you're also bound to run into some really interesting people that have life stories that you can't relate to even remotely. And that's interesting to me. But the goal isn't to spend time in the Bible Belt. The goal is to just get through the Bible Belt so I can get to the West Coast, because I would want to spend time in California and Oregon and Washington State and the western side of Canada and Alaska. And then I would probably get a flight right over to Japan, spend some time in Japan. Probably wouldn't want to spend time in China. Um, Probably want to spend time in South Korea. I'm kind of weary about Australia because everything there wants to kill you. So maybe I'll skip China and just go straight, or it's not. I already said I was going to skip China, but maybe I'll skip Australia and just go straight from South Korea over to like Spain or Italy or something and spend a bunch of time in Europe. But like we're talking about like not spending more than like 2 to 3 weeks in any one place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So I want to travel too, but I don't want to settle down anywhere. I just want to like be on the move constantly. And like I guess quote unquote settling down wouldn't be the right term for it. But like you're talking about 6 months, I'm talking about like less than a month. And like I would want to spend really like most of my time would probably be spent looking for places to live. As if I have $1 billion, I'm going to be looking for a new home to buy that's sustainable. I might even I just got a really good idea. I am going to pay to have an earthship constructed, but obviously I would still need to scout out land to put it on, and I would have to buy the land. But yeah, I would have an earthship constructed. And for those of you who don't know, earthships are basically completely sustainable homes that collect their own rainwater. They have their own like centralized version of heating and cooling based just on like natural resources like sunlight and the coolness of the earth and shit like that. And they collect rainwater and they filter their own water to make it drinkable, and they recycle their own water. They use it in like a greenhouse, and they use their own solar panels to create power and all of that. It's a completely self-sustaining home. So you're basically completely off the grid, no strings attached, only exceptions being like internet, and that's about it. And like I'm cool with that. I'll pay, if I'm a fucking billionaire now, I'll pay 100 or 150 bucks a month for internet. And like even if I decide to move out of the United States, which seems pretty likely given our current fucking state, Most other countries have better internet than us for cheaper prices anyway. So I'll just go somewhere with good internet and have an Earthship built there, and that'll be my home forever, basically.
Sounds good to me, man. Sounds like a great month to me, and just really game planning in general sounds like good shit.
Yeah. Third question from James and final question from James. What moment are you most proud of in January? Videos you recorded, achievements, etc.
I'm really proud of the progress I'm making in therapy. I think that's really been wonderful for me this month. Um, I'm really proud of the Rumble Week recordings that we did. I thought those came out excellent. I'm proud of my commitment to reading more philosophy, which has been wonderful. Any chance I get, like I'm trying to read an essay or like part of a book. I would like to do it even more than what I am doing, but I definitely feel like it's been better than what I was doing last year, which is just amazing. And yeah, just focusing on cultivating a better me, so to speak. And I'm grateful, and it's wonderful, and that's really all I got to say. So, what about you?
I've lost 16 pounds this month.
Yeah, that's fucking insane.
Yep. So that's pretty cool. That's definitely my answer for that one. So I guess we can move on. Um, 3 questions from Ella. First up, thoughts on the White House fast food dinner fiasco?
I mean, it's just peak Trump presidency, isn't it? It doesn't surprise me, but it is what it is, I guess. Like, I really just don't expect like anything other than what we've gotten here. So, like, how can you really react when so many other things, both worse and comparable, have already like happened? I feel like my senses are really kind of dull to that kind of stuff, except to kind of just devolve into a maniacal laughter of sorts. So that's my reaction to that. What about you?
It really is like the perfect snapshot of the current presidency, isn't it?
It
Because
really is.
your expectations are set at a certain degree. I'm going to the White House to have dinner with the president, and then you get there, and it's all just shitty fakeness that you never asked for and expected better of. And that's just the perfect snapshot of not only the state of the presidency, but really the state of the country as a whole. Because, like, billionaires run fucking everything. And believing otherwise is really just either A, attempting to be willfully ignorant, which honestly, at this point, I don't even blame you because this is truly one of those cases where I think ignorance is bliss. And I would rather not know than know and be miserable about it. Or B, you're just being tricked by the news companies that are literally paid for by the fucking billionaires. So, yeah, it's and that's another thing too is who profited off of those fast food sales? Fucking billionaires. So there you go. It's just a snapshot of the state of things as they are.
Next question.
Second question from Ella. Have you ever overheard someone say something really nice or really bad about you behind your back?
Yeah, yeah. I once heard my grandmother just kind of say that I need professional help when I was getting excited about something. Like I heard her say to my sister, which deeply hurt my feelings. So I was just being excited about stuff and I wanted to share. And I'm sorry, I'm happy. And I guess something good. Honestly, can't think off the top of my head of hearing something that somebody like did about me good. I guess whenever I hear my sister talking to my grandmother and I come up, my sister's usually very praiseworthy of me because she's just so beautiful. So yeah, I've had both experiences. The one really hurt, and the other one felt really good. So it all kind of balances out in the end.
Yeah. I'm sure I have, but I can't say that I particularly remember any instances of this. I hate to say, because you know how my memory is, it's very selective and I tend to only really remember things that I really want to remember, and I don't really tend to remember things that I don't care enough to remember.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's really all you can say about that. So Ella's final question I know is just for you, Ashton, so you can take it
Yeah.
away.
Yep. She wanted to know which NFL teams that didn't make the playoffs this season I think will be able or will be in the conversation next season. The two big ones are really three. The three big ones I think are and for slightly different reasons. The first two, for very similar reasons, are the Browns and the Jets, because they both have very young, talented quarterbacks going into their second year with in at the very least in Baker Mayfield's case with the Browns, a very bright, young, offensive minded head coach that will help him develop extremely well. I'm really excited for the Browns next year. And in the Jets case, I'm less enthusiastic about Adam Gase as their head coach. But I still think that if Darnold had just played as well all season as he played in the final like 8 games of the year, they probably would have been in playoff discussions. And I also think that they are going to do more to kind of address their offensive line and lack of defensive talent. So that'll be my answer. Those two, and then the third team is actually Ella, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because I just love Bruce Arians. I think Bruce Arians is a great offensive mind, and even though I think that Dirk Cutter and more specifically, oh shit, I'm blanking. This is Todd Monken. Todd Monken. And that's another reason why I'm buying into the Browns, because Todd Monken is now listed as their offensive coordinator. So Todd Monken, the Browns' offensive brain trust is just incredible right now. But I like those two guys as offensive minds, but I just love Bruce Arians. And I think that if they really like legitimately commit to Jameis Winston being the starter, which I think that Arians will do, I think that that's going to help them significantly. And I also think that it's going to be like a step up year for Jameis. And I think that they're going to address their horrible defense this offseason. They almost have to. Like they have a nearly perfect offense. And they even have like a young running back that they can believe in. They have very limited talent on defense, especially in their secondary. So Tampa Bay fixes their secondary, and I think that they are a playoff team as well. What other teams missed the playoffs this year that might be in the hunt next year? I think that's all I can think of right now. Oh, the Titans maybe. The Titans maybe, because like numbers show that Matt LaFleur was low key like a really bad play caller this year, which is unfortunate. But I guess we'll see on that. But that's about it for me. That's all I can think of. So um I guess we can move on. Oh, and you know what? Let me check something real quick. There have been a lot of coaching changes this season, so I want to check something before I make any calls. Yeah. I'm gonna say that the Bengals might be in playoff contention next year too, because I really do like Andy Dalton. I think he's really underrated. And I also think that they have a really stacked offensive roster. They need a little bit of help at tackle, but like their left tackle situation is pretty well remedied with Cordy Glenn there. And you know, they might need a guard or something, but I think their offensive line is like average, which, you know, as long as it's not tragically bad, it's not such a horrible case. They've got a great defensive roster talent wise. And I think that as long as their play calling isn't absolute garbage like it has been historically under Marvin Lewis and Hugh Jackson, I think that they are a contender every year, because again, I really do like Andy Dalton. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So there's, I guess I named 5 teams there. So it would be Cleveland is the one that I'm most confident. Cleveland and Tampa Bay, I think, are the 2 teams that I'm most confident in making the playoffs in 2019. Then I would say the Jets would be third, and the Bengals, and then I'm the least sure about the Titans. Like I want to root for the Titans so bad because I love so many players on that team, but they just have not figured out their coaching staff. So that's mostly up in the air. But I'm going to end the question now. We'll move on. Up next, we've got 5 questions from Alex Foster, and we can call it. First up, are there any wrestlers who you could see going to AEW but doing worse than they did in WWE? It's bound to happen.
I could see more undercard people, like if they wanted to make a run at it. Like if Tyler Breeze, who I doubt, because he's, he once said, my bank account's doing fine. So clearly, like the financial security is very alluring to him. If he was to go to AEW, if we were to compare it to like say his NXT run where he was this really over character, I don't know. You know, I feel like he could do worse there. Axel would be another guy that I feel like would do worse there because at least with WWE they gave him multiple tag title runs and an Intercontinental title run. So you know, I don't. Really
I was actually going to say Sheamus because he is a former world champion, and I feel like if he went to AEW, he would be like a veteran, a veteran like gatekeeper, you know, like a guy that puts over everyone else.
Exactly. I could say the same with like a fucking Jinder Mahal because, like it or not, he is a former WWE champion. So WWE gave him a world title run. No way could I see him doing better than that in AEW, or you know, on par with that, I should say. Fucking yeah. So like Jinder, a guy like Curtis. If I'm really thinking undercard guys, if I could think of like one bigger guy, I don't even know if like a Kevin Owens would do that well if he wanted to take a stab at AEW. Sammy, I think he actually would do better. And Sammy, I think, is the more likely to leave between the two. Like if he was to ever get tired of like the WWE style, especially because he's had a lot of time to think with his injury. And I enjoyed his Talk is Jericho podcast, and he really seemed to be like, you know, on some stuff, just thinking like, you know, I'm not really missing it, this and that. But Kevin, I don't think would do as well. I mean, he was Universal Champion, multi-time Intercontinental Champion, U.S. Champion. I don't think he'd be that decorated in AEW. So I'm just going to stop there because it was already hard to think of names for this question. But I think that's just kind of my list right there.
All right. Second question from Foster. Besides Girl Scout cookies, what other things would you buy from Samoa Joe door to door?
Probably life insurance because if
I was gonna say, like, I don't know if there's something that Samoa Joe door to door couldn't sell me, just because I'd be scared to say no.
Yeah, exactly. Like anything.
Listen, I know it's minus 15 wind chill right now, but you need this ice, boy.
Yeah, like
okay, yes, Mr. Joseph. I'm sorry that I looked at you wrong. Please, how much is it?
I mean, and really, if we're honest, if he's out in that kind of weather to begin with, the question I'd be asking myself is, who is God to whom here? Because clearly Joe is taming nature, and nature is not taming Joe at this moment. So, yeah, that's enough for me to get to ship bricks, which is funny because that's probably also what he would sell me. So, I agree with Ashton.
Literal bricks of shit.
Exactly. You know?
And you'd buy it too, because why would you ever say no to that?
No, you wouldn't, because I want to live. So I agree with that. He definitely has the right idea there.
Yeah. All right. So third question from Foster. Favorite superhero / villain not affiliated with Marvel or DC? Marty Skrull doesn't count.
I'm gonna say Maria from the Deadly Class comics. She is such a fucking badass in a few issues and like really takes care of stuff. I say her and Sai of the Deadly Class comics. I fucking love those two. And honestly, it's going to have to be Deadly Class because I haven't really read many comics like outside of that. And especially in the comics I would read, they would fall under that Marvel or DC binary. So I'll just go with that. Do you have any answers you want to give?
Oh, man. I always struggle to just think of superheroes / villains not associated with Marvel or DC.
Yeah.
Maybe Rorschach?
Oh, I like that. Yeah. It's a good
one. Probably Rorschach, I guess. Although, if I remember correctly, he was like a fucking like super prudish piece of shit. So maybe he's not a good answer.
Yeah.
That's more just me trying to name somebody who isn't.
Maybe I mean just to kind of maybe Dr. Manhattan. He was kind of a badass with that whole, you know.
Oh yeah, but he had the whole apathy thing going on that kind of pissed me off. Maybe I should just avoid Watchmen altogether because I think I hated everyone in that movie except for like fucking the fucking heel, like what was it, Olympidius or the guy that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like,
yeah, that was like kill a few thousand to save billions, whoever that guy was.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna Google this shit. What was his name? Ozymandias. That's what it was. Ozymandias. I think that at least at the time that I watched the movie, I think that he was probably the character that I kind of like empathized the most with.
Right.
I guess him and Night Owl, or not Night Owl, Silk Spectre. I think that those two are the ones that I kind of empathized with the most. But still, like I just feel like it's just a bad answer just because like those are the only superheroes that I can think of that aren't necessarily related to Marvel or DC.
Right. Yeah, it really is a struggle when they're just.
That's how small of a scope I have. So
No
I
worries.
feel very much like I've been gatekeeped upon right now.
Next question.
If you guys had managers who, instead of building you up, constantly made fun of you, who would you choose?
MJF, if he ever wanted to manage somebody just to ridicule them, I would
Oh
love
wow,
by him that like
you left me an absolute layup.
yeah. Who you got?
Scott Steiner.
Yeah, there you go. Beautiful.
Too easy.
Uh,
All right. Final question of the Q&A, Foster's fifth. If you had Pokemon gyms, what special rules for it would you have? And then he also added, feel free to get as serious or ridiculous as possible.
I can only really think of two, and they're both serious, even though it makes me a dick gym leader. No using Pokemon with more than one evolution, and you must win at least one battle to get my badge with a weaker Pokemon against one of my Pokemon that like has an advantage. So like whatever type I am, you have to use one. So like say if I'm fire, you have to beat one of my fire type Pokemon with a grass Pokemon to show me your resiliency and your ability to strategize against a disadvantage to earn my gym badge. So no Pokemon with more than one evolution, and you must win a battle head to head with a Pokemon that's advantageous over your Pokemon. Those would be my two serious gym rules that make me just an absolute fucking heel. So there you go.
No, I like that though. I think that's a really cool concept, especially that second one. Like first one, I don't know. I'm a little less excited about, but that second one, forcing your opponent to have to beat you despite a disadvantage, I really like that. That's like a true test of ability. I like that.
Yeah, and like you with comics, I really don't give a fuck about Pokemon except mindlessly playing the game. So that's really the best that I could come up with.
Right.
What do you got?
I think that just because like flukes are such a thing, I think that my special rule at my gym would be you can't just beat me once. You have to beat me best 3 out of 5.
Yeah, there you go.
And we're not just talking like 3 out of 5 individual Pokemon. We're talking 3 out of 5 full-blown battles.
Yeah.
So that would be my special rule because fuck flukes, right? Like that's kind of been my philosophy in life. Once can be a fluke, twice can be a coincidence, but at 3 times it starts to become what looks like a trend.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 3 out of 5 every time. And I'll even let you go heal in between battles. Like I'm not that much of a jerk. That I'm going to try and make you stay and fight 5 battles consecutively without healing. You can go to the Pokemon Center. We want 5 fresh, fresh start battles. 5 different instances of a battle. Just to really prove, like, if you're going to beat me once, that wasn't a fluke, basically. So that's where I would be. All right, but that's it. That's our last question for this Q&A. John, any final thoughts?
No, just thanks again, as always, you guys, for being amazing with your questions and as creative as you guys always are. Some really inventive stuff this month. As soon as this recording gets over, I'll post the new pin tweet for the next TWitWoW Q&A, which is to take place on the end of February. So that's the second straight month where it's just the end of the month will be our Q&A, February 28th.
Yeah, February's funny like that. How the last day of February happens to fall on the same day as the last day in January.
Exactly. So yeah, I will see you guys then. Really, yeah. Just get your Q&A questions in. You guys know, non-Patreon donors, 3 Q&A questions. Those that donate to the Patreon, you get up to 5 Q&A questions. YouTube, you can even comment on this video with your Q&A questions. I know quite a few people do that. So when it's done processing, get your Q&A questions in there. Twitter, again, I just said my pin tweet, and you can DM me. And if you are a Patreon donor, more than likely you have a TWitWoW Discord membership. So you can submit them in the Discord, but that's a minimum of $3. So maybe we have donors out there that have only donated $1. I don't know. So just know that YouTube, since you are a donor, up to 5 questions. It's that simple. So, yeah, guys, we'll see you on February 28th for Q&A, and I'm going to hand it over to Ashton to take us home.
All right, guys. We hope that you enjoyed this Q&A. Of course, like the video, subscribe, click the bell icon, all that fun stuff. Follow us on Twitter, like the Facebook, buy the merch on Teespring, donate to the Patreon, and share this channel, this video, all that stuff. And we will see you all on Saturday for the Worlds Collide tournament, which we will be live reacting to. And then, of course, Sunday we'll also be live reacting to Halftime Heat. So be on the lookout for that. And in the meantime, we're going to be trying to figure out what our patrons want us to react to for the month of February. Just to clarify, if Impact or Ring of Honor does end up winning the poll, we will be live reacting to those on the 8th, 15th, 22nd, and the 1st of March to make up for the fact that we didn't react to them on the 1st of February, just because, you know, it takes a few days to get the poll results all in and counted and stuff. And we're never going to be able to do that within the confines of one day. And especially because Patreon now takes like 2 days to actually process all of the donations. So we'll still do 4 of them to make sure that we live up to the donation amount, but it won't be exclusively in February. There'll be a little bit of run over into March if that happens. So we'll see if our patrons decide to have us react to Impact, or if they want us to do NXT, or if they want us to do NXT UK, or whatever it happens to be. But of course, regardless of what that happens to be, we'll see you guys on Saturday and Sunday. And of course, we would appreciate it if you would all remember to stay tuned.